celebrities make deals behind closed doors, promises broken. In their income source, hidden agendas run the grand parade. In the circus, choose a masquerade. Believe me, I wouldn't lie. I've been given money, power, and fame to keep you in line. Television screens bright and loud, sell you dreams, make you proud. Pop the bubble, see the cage you're in. Start the revolution, let the truth begin. Welcome to the chaos.
Welcome everyone to today's stream. We are going to be talking about political stuff, and because I don't know about politics, I have some notes, and Damon's going to tell me if I got things wrong or not or whatever. But I thought it'd be interesting because I saw Steve Bannon on an episode, a podcast with Tim Dillon, and I love Tim Dillon. And he said a lot of stuff that I didn't know about. I mean, back in, what was it, like 2010s and stuff like that, I think I still kind of believe like everybody in politics was kind of like an ass wipe, and I didn't really care, and I just didn't pay attention to that stuff. So I learned this stuff for the first time, and then later, if we have time, we will talk about... What's the other thing I wanted to talk about? Oh, Elon Musk on Joe Rogan and a few things he said, like the money and all that crap like that we're wasting in this country. And I do have like my top trending news things. Mind-boggling stuff. Yes, mind-boggling stuff. Yeah, it does matter, even though like whatever, like I didn't follow it for a very long time, but we're doing it now. All right, so before we get into the interview, I want to talk to you guys about what is it? Some things that were what's it called? Trending on Twitter. So they are talking about how Social Security is a Ponzi scheme because the government forces everyone to participate in it, blah, 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 when we could use that money to help ourselves or some garbage. What do you think, Damon? Is it a true Ponzi scheme?
Well, I think most recently it was Elon Musk who made that claim in the Joe Rogan thing. I mean, he said it a few times, but he mentioned it also recently in the Joe Rogan interview. And if you think about what it's really being used for, how long you're going to be paying in for it versus how much you can actually get out of it, and how one of the big things that Musk is always talking about, saying that you are constantly having generations that are not really reaching birthing standards. It is going to basically collapse. You're being supported by a smaller population group that are also historically earning less and less and less. So you're not going to get out of it what previous generations did, and eventually it's going to dwindle off to the point where people aren't going to get anything out of it. So in that respect, yeah, it seems like a Ponzi scheme.
Yeah, and I mean, when you take so much taxes from people, they have less disposable income, less income when they retire, and not everybody knows. Nobody in this country, I don't know how it is over there, but nobody in this country is taught about investing, about managing money, about like how money works. We're not taught about any of that stuff. We're just told, go to work, put money in Social Security, and your 401k, which is like trash. And that's it. We used to have pensions in this country. So you would work for one company for X amount of years. I think it was like 30 years or something like that. And then they bumped it up, little by little to like 40 years. But still, it was like a set amount of years. You got your pension, and that would pay for everything for the rest of your life. You'd be getting that like yearly whatever income.
Well, Americans, Sorry, no. Go ahead, finish.
That you'd be getting that yearly income so that you'd be able to use that as if you just had a job, like before Social Security. You'd be able to use that income to pay for doctor's visits. And back in the day, you could pay for something out of pocket because there was, if you have cash, even now, actually, right now, I don't have insurance. I don't qualify to get any of like these free insurances for people like the Obamacares and all this. I don't qualify. So I go call up people and I'm like, I have cash, no insurance. How much is it? And their cash rate is always going to be a little bit less. And it's not that bad. If you're paying $800-900 a month for insurance, for health, and that's ridiculous. Nobody can do that anymore. So like this whole thing of like the whole system was going to come crashing down because they made everything so expensive. They made society so individualistic and self-centered and not family oriented. They make everybody move away from each other. They get rid of the family, the extended family. They made life so stressful and hard that people are in like drugs and alcohol. So like having a good family life isn't just like a thing anymore. As when we were working less, we had more community time, more family time. We don't have that anymore. So people are just like self-medicating here because it's like such a shithole.
Well, one of the things that a couple of my friends living in the US mentioned, um, and well, I think we were having this discussion when there was about 8 or 9 of us, and one of them worked for the government. And he actually said that several states did this without the public even being made aware of it. Um, and I was like, how the hell weren't the public made aware of it? Like, surely they would find out. He says, oh, by the time they find out, we can blame it on like 20 different things. Um, and what it was when you mentioned the pensions. Yeah, I remember a lot of American companies had those pensions. Like if you worked for them, and that's basically classed as a private pension. It's not the government pension. And in the UK, we've got most people just rely on the government pension, which is absolutely pathetic. You're not going to live on that. Um, but there were some companies that you could work for, and many of them, I think the earliest ones that we had in the UK were actually US private companies that operated in the UK that offered the private pension scheme. And they also offered you the opportunity to, up to a certain percentage, you can pay extra into your private pension and the company will match it. They'll double what you put in, up to a certain percentage. And a lot of people did that. A lot of people had those private pensions. And what they weren't aware of was that in the small print, the government can basically dip into those private pension pots if they want to. And when we had the Labour government back in, I think it was around sometime between 2007 and 2009, our Prime Minister was Gordon Brown. And just to show you how corrupt in any country the left-wing government can be, Gordon Brown decided that because we faced a little bit of a credit crunch, a bit of a economic crisis, this shows you the left-wing mentality of what to do when you face financial troubles. They wanted to borrow more money to get out of debt. How'd you get into debt? Essentially, by being shitty with money or borrowing money when you can't afford to pay it back. And their logic to getting out of debt was to borrow yet more money. And then when that didn't work out, they decided to sell about 2/3 of our gold for 11 times less than what it was valued at because they were so desperate to get some kind of cash injection. And then when that didn't work, although they claimed they didn't, if you look into how it was done, yes, they did do that. They raided people's private pension funds. They literally just took money out of everybody's private pension and said, we're going to have this now. And then what do you think the problem that most companies had was? People who worked for private companies didn't want to have some of their money going into a private pension because they said, no, you're just going to steal the money again. So what did the law that came into effect was that if you work for these companies, you have to have a private pension. and the government basically signed that off as a law. They're essentially saying the pension that we're going to give you is crap. You're not going to be able to live on it. So we're making it a legal requirement that you have a secondary private pension. And people are like, but what if you steal from it again? They're like, don't worry, we won't. I was like, are you going to pay back what you took from us the first time around? No, fuck that. I mean, it's ridiculous, but technically they keep doing stuff like this. The fact that they make it almost impossible for rich people to have children, but they incentivize poor people to have children. And they know statistically, and from studies that's funded by taxpayer money, they know that poor people who live on government handouts are going to statistically almost certainly have children who live on government handouts. And successful people will have children who can support themselves. They know that future generations are going to be higher and higher and higher in unemployment, which means that those people who do work, when they then qualify and have a pension, that pension is going to be supported by a population group that's far, 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 far less likely to be employed in the numbers that they were. So you're not going to get out what previous generations got in, and what you put into that fund of government support, you're not going to be able to get anything back out of it, really.
So, do you think, like conspiracy theory, do you think that they do this on purpose because they want to have less wealthy people, because poor people are the easiest to control? So the more people who have benefits or whatever, the more people they can control. And then the wealthy people, or like, the more intelligent people that could, be a threat to their power, never get enough money
Well,
to do
I
anything.
don't know if it's so much about wealth. I think it's more about power. I think that they don't want to have future generations that are going to be independent. They want future generations that are going to be dependent on a government. They know from decades of the public rejecting this that Western cultures do not want to embrace socialism or any kind of Marxist school of thought. They don't want to accept that. They know that capitalism is the way that you're going to be able to support yourself and be independent. So what I think they're trying to do is, I think they're trying to manipulate Western societies who live in a capitalist state, who are independent, who do want to support themselves, but they're trying to manipulate them into a position where, okay, if you don't want to live under socialism, if you don't like this idea of embracing the notion of shared wealth, we're going to basically dumb you down to the point where you're all equally failing. Okay? So you're going to still believe that you're capitalist. You're going to believe that you have the freedom to do all of these things, but we're going to just hamper you by making future generations unemployable, uh, tempt them with government handouts. So like in London and many places, or in the UK in many places actually, you'll have places where, depending on your situation, you'll get more money for sitting at home and doing nothing from the government than even having a minimum wage job. Like the most basic employment that you could get if you work full time, even in some situations if you do overtime as well, you'll get more money to sit at home and not work than to go into work. Why do we have a system like that where the government is going to pay you to sit at home and work more than what you'll get in the job actually being a functional member of society? That should not be allowed.
Yeah, we have a lot of programs here, like for example, the one I used to work for, if you get HIV/AIDS or whatever, in order to get the medications that could be $10,000-$20,000 a month just to keep you alive, the government wants you to have no income, right? So if you get like a small part-time job and they figure it out or whatever, even if you do it on the table, they like look and stuff, then you lose all your benefits. So like
Oh
you'll
yeah,
basically be dead. So like
yeah,
they make sure they keep as many people who are just there. The same thing with there's single moms, like they'll give them like housing, whatever credits they make under a certain amount. But if they get a raise, like these people are like screaming and crying, like, you can't give me a raise. I can't do this because then I lose everything. So it's like they keep you like
yeah.
just there where you're just poor enough to vote for them, but not enough to actually have any time to change or any resources to change the situation.
Well, the situation for us is so stupid. It's I think that it's done in a way where it's deliberately to insult you, where you know that this isn't an accident. I think it's done in such a way where they want you to be aware that the system is so fucked up that they're laughing at you and they're mocking you if you're actually trying. They want to dissuade people from basically aspiring to some level of success, because a friend of mine was in a situation where he was injured at work, and the amount of surgeries that he needed and the rehab time meant that he was definitely going to be out of work for 6 months, and he needed medications. Now, in our country, you pay for the National Health Service. You pay for that essentially twice through your taxes. There's two separate payments via your taxes that get taken out of your salary before you even see it. So technically, I mean, in America, I think that you actually have to pay for taxes. I'm not sure. You kind of make a conscious
Yeah.
choice to pay tax, because we always laughed in the UK when we heard that people were done for tax evasion. And in the UK, when we look at the US and oh, somebody who's done for tax evasion, we're like, shit, I wish I knew how the fuck they did that, because we can't evade tax. You get your tax money taken from you before it even reaches your bank. So essentially, we don't pay tax in the UK. We genuinely get robbed by the government before the money even appears in our bank. Like, they're just like, we're taking that shit. And many times they'll take more than that they're supposed to. And in some cases you have to wait 3 or 4 years before they pay
Mhm.
you back. They're like, oh hey, we made a fuck up, here's your money back.
I
And you
think
don't have
they
the right
might
to say to
withhold
them,
it.
sorry?
Yeah. In some companies, I think they withhold the taxes for you
Right,
or
right.
whatever. And then when you do your
Well,
taxes, they pay you or not.
well,
Whatever.
there's two. The point I just needed to make was basically there's two payments that actually go into the National Health Service. There's one which is uh uh well, it gets a little bit complicated, but essentially you pay for the NHS twice if you're working and if you're paying tax. And then if you actually have to go and see a doctor, if there's something wrong, let's say you go to A&E or you go to your GP and you get referred and you have to have some kind of surgery or whatever, that's covered. You don't pay for that shit. But if you need kind of long-term prescriptions, which my friend did, and he was going to need definitely about 4 months, 4 months supply at least of drugs. And I think he was on about 5 or 6 different drugs. If you work or if you're employed, which he was, you have to pay for each prescription. And I think at the time the cost of a prescription was something like £10, right? Well, what's that, like something like $12.50, something like that, $13 probably. Um, but he needed to refresh his prescription every 2 weeks. So like you're looking at over $100, around $150 a month minimum. Um, and he's not earning, but he's still employed, which means that under our law, if you're employed, you have to pay for your prescriptions. So now they make you pay 3 times for a service which is supposed to be free if you're
Mhm.
employed. But one of the loopholes which gets you out of paying is if you're unemployed. I think one of them is if you're a pensioner, if you're retired, if you're under the age of 18, I think, or if you're unemployed. So he had to tell his boss that he had to quit just so that he could afford his meds and get like government handouts, government pay, and he could claim disability, right? So he essentially asked his boss to say to him, look, sorry, look, I'll pay you while you're on your sick leave, because his sick leave paid a certain amount. He had a certain amount of days of sick leave, but then after the sick leave, for his boss to say, I'm sorry, I have to let you go. That way he could get sick leave pay for a certain amount of time, use that to pay off, and then afterwards claim benefits and claim disability allowance as well. So if you can claim more than the basic universal credit, which is like the basic government handouts, if you can claim something extra, like a disability allowance on top of that, you can earn essentially more money than what postgraduate people earn. Like you could, if you claimed several payments, because there's several payments that you can claim from the government in the UK, and you can make a fair bit of money. And he looked through all the loopholes of basic. Look, if I'm going to milk the system, I'm going to milk it for everything I can. He was getting a good bit of money, to the point where even when he got healthy, he was very picky about what kind of job he was going to take, because he was like, I get more money for not working. And I was thinking, dude, you became part of the fucking problem. Like, do you see how easy it is to get brainwashed and be like that? And he was in that mentality of, oh, fuck, you're right. And he genuinely became like a bit of a self-loather for a couple of weeks until he got himself a job. And he was like, this is such an easy fucking trap to fall into.
I mean, it is, because working sucks too. So it's like, you can, I don't know, it's not a good existence to be on government assistance, but you can survive, and that's the problem.
I mean, there's a couple of really good, I don't really like listening to those kind of self-help gurus. A lot of them are grifters, but there's a few people, and Jordan Peterson talks about it as well, about getting yourself into that mentality of actually enjoying your work. You don't have to do a job that you're passionate about. Many people think, I want to find a job that I'm passionate about. Like, oh, if you love your job, then you never work a day in your life. So no, that's bullshit. You can actually put yourself into the mindset of, I'm going to enjoy work today. And you genuinely do. And you feel good about yourself, knowing that you're supporting yourself and you're not some kind of leech. But when you see these work-shy people who just are happy to, like, just suck the tit of the system and take the money that like other people put into a pot and just happily take it for themselves. And they're laughing because they're thinking, look, I'm getting money, I'm not doing any work. So yeah, but you're a piece of shit. You're a piece of shit who's basically sold out any kind of potential for future success just to sit at home and have your ass paid for.
I mean, it is what it is. I used to work with that population, so I know, like, I would try to get them to get excited and do something. We had a lot of programs even that they could get a degree, get like a, what's it called? Like a license to do some type of job, so they can kind of get out of that situation. Even just like to be a hairstylist, where you can make your own hours and just get just enough money that you still have your benefits, but you have more. So you're not like just sitting at home all the time. And they would start, and then the second one person said anything bad to them, or there was any drama or whatever in the school or the course, whatever, they would just leave. They'd just be like, it's too much. They were mean to me. They said something to me, like, because they just had such a, the flea in the jar with the lid on mentality. Even though like the lid can be removed, they still would not jump. It's really sad. But I mean, that is a state of things. Okay, so the next thing before we go into the interview was F Ukraine is trending, and there's some cool memes we got. We got some cool F Ukraine memes.
That took a long time for people to catch on to. Been saying that since day one.
Here we go. So I did not see the Zelensky Trump thing, but I heard like there's a lot of yelling.
Yeah, that wasn't a good look for Zelensky. Dude is a little bitch. And when is that guy ever going to learn? It doesn't make you look cool, and it doesn't make you look like you're a wartime president just by wearing a dirty looking sweater and some combat fatigues. It's like, I'm sorry, nobody believes that you're actually boots on the ground. Nobody does. Just because you wear combats and a jumper, we know that you're a fucking actor, dude. I'm sorry.
Oh, for sure. He is ridiculous. And we know who owns him.
And also, it doesn't make you look like a badass. Winston Churchill wore a fucking suit, smoked a fat cigar, and he looked easily a good 70 pounds too fucking heavy to be able to run around or fight. But he looked like a badass wartime leader.
Yeah, so they were saying on Twitter that a tiny, corrupt, worthless country like Ukraine thinks that the world will go to nuclear war to defend them.
I at the same time, I think that mentality is also bad. We can't start hating on Ukraine. The Ukrainian people didn't do anything fucking wrong. Their leader is a fucking dickhead. That's the problem. Have a problem with the leader, don't have a problem with the people. Most Ukrainians don't want the fucking war either. The overwhelming majority of Ukrainians don't want it. So I don't think we should make them feel like they're being attacked or hated on. It's just Zelensky's a fucking dick.
So, have you heard about, well, you probably definitely know about this. Okay. The UK Prime Minister and US figures, including Donald Trump and Vance and whatever, were discussing concern over free speech in the UK, saying that it's a violation, not only American, but British, but not only British, but American interests. And they were defending the UK's stance on their supposed free speech and basically saying that claims lack substantiated evidence, suggesting that people faced a lot of problems for posting content that was true. Do you know anything about that?
Well,
I know
Keir Starmer and his people are the ones that brought that shit in. He is I'm sorry, but he is the nightmare that Orwell spoke about. Keir Starmer is a fucking dickbag. He's the one who, under his leadership, you had people going around you had the police going around knocking on people's doors, being like, "Did you post this?" It's like, "Oh, have you got something better to deal with, like grape gangs and shit like that?" No. But you will knock on people's doors because a guy went to prison for just literally asking, shouldn't we be concerned about having open borders and having anybody just come across into our country on a rubber dinghy, right? And shouldn't the taxpayer know that their borders are being kept safe and their money's actually doing something to protect them? And under Keir Starmer's Britain, that dude got arrested. And when confronted about it, he had no problem. He's like, "Well, this is dangerous, hateful speech. Look, do the world a favor and just take yourself out of it."
So what kind of things are you not allowed to say? Do you guys self-censor, or is it
we don't even know. We don't even know. I mean, look, I'm sure you know about the now famous guy who did he get thrown in prison, or was he going to get thrown in prison because he taught his girlfriend's dog how to do the Elon Musk salute?
Are you serious?
You never heard about him?
Maybe years ago, right? Didn't you say
Yeah.
something like a joke? But
he just taught his girl's dog how to do the salute.
Ridiculous. But he posted it online.
Yeah. The video of the dog doing it.
That's how they get you.
That's how they get you. But that was London ages ago.
Do it in the living room and just be happy.
That was London ages ago. And the thing is that guy is white, right? And the dude who asked the question about why aren't our borders being protected? Huh?
Was the dog
The dog was black.
Oh.
The dog was
Come
biting.
on,
But the
then.
thing is,
That's fine.
the funny thing is that a lot of people that are getting arrested for this shit are number one, Londoners, and number
Mm.
two, they're white, right?
Oh, so they're trying
And
to get rid of the locals.
it's a liberal government that's arresting them, saying that
Mm.
this is hate speech. These are racist comments, right? Asking if your border is protected is a racist comment, right? Now, it's far left liberals that are calling for these people to be arrested, and it's a leftist government that's arresting them. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought that these radical leftists believed that racism needs to be done against a minority by an oppressive majority, right? That
Yeah.
their version of racism is that it has to have power behind it, which is why in America you have liberal blacks saying we can't be racist because we don't have power and we're a minority, correct?
Yeah. But they
So
don't.
in London,
Only the
how can
liberals
you
have power.
but how can you arrest or how can you accuse white people of London
Hmm.
of being racist? Technically, according to their own definition, if you're a white guy living in London, you can't be racist because you are the minority. For years now in London, white people are the minority.
Here, I think like the one with the power are the white women, right?
In America,
The top would be the white liberal women.
I guess so.
So who would be the top over there? Like Islamic people?
Yeah. In London, yes. In London, I
So
think they own the most land. I think three or
they
four
own
years
it.
ago, 3 or 4 years ago, it was over 65% of the land was owned by Arabs in London.
Interesting.
And this was done by the state, by the way, because like for a long time, there were people calling for sanctions. But well, basically, what they wanted was they wanted a ruling to say that there was a previous law that they wanted upheld, which is that you can only own more than one property if you live in the country a certain amount of months out of the year to stop um, other countries basically buying up your land and then claiming it
Okay.
as their own.
Mhm.
And they knew that several Middle Eastern nations were basically buying up land and then sending people out there to live there. Like literally, we're going to pay you to go and live in a property here in the UK. So that basically they kind of got around that loophole.
Yeah. They do
Yeah,
that
and
in a bunch of places.
it was done to devalue properties. So they would buy they'll buy about 30% of properties in a very wealthy neighborhood. And then they would find literally, we were told, and I don't know if this is a conspiracy theory or not, but if you just look at the behaviors and if you look at what people were saying was going on, you can believe that it was true. They were taking people who were mentally ill or criminals and putting them out there to live in those houses because they wanted to piss off everybody so much and they wanted to cut so that they could devalue the property and then they could snap up the other properties at a much cheaper price. So you had like some very, very, very wealthy neighborhoods around Regent's Park where there's multi-million pound mansions in a beautiful neighborhood. And then you have a family with 14 children move out there. And people were saying that for about 200 feet around this property, they were finding nappies with shit in it, just like thrown out into the street. And there's photographs of this. There's photographs of like people, like they just threw their shit out in the street. And it was a very famous hotel, like where some of these people were put into. And because you can buy you can buy in London. There was a time where you could literally buy a room in a hotel and say, "Oh, this is mine." Hotels were selling rooms, and they were buying it. And the cleaners like were basically saying, like, I don't know why they don't use the toilet. People were just literally shitting in bins. They weren't using the toilet, and they found bed sheets that were just completely soiled. And it's like, oh no, they do that because they know a cleaner has to come along and clean it. They just like making people's lives a misery. It's like they were paid to do
Jeez.
that. No, but they were paid to do that. They were paid to basically like piss people off, make yourself a nuisance, so that people complain and people don't want to go there anymore. You drive the prices down,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah,
then we
yeah.
can snap shit up.
So that's kind of like when you live in the ghetto and they're trying to gentrify it, and you start shooting your gun up every couple hours.
Yeah, yeah. You're basically just driving prices down.
Nice. So, back to the interview with Steve Bannon, who I did not before today or yesterday know who he was. I'll just say it. No idea.
You didn't know who Steve Bannon was?
I saw some like it was not into politics, so like I would see like maybe on other shows or whatever, like comedy shows, they would be making fun of him, calling him like evil, and they would make his skin look like it was like really horrible and make him look scary and stuff, with like when they do the contrast and crap like they do.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I don't know who this is, but he doesn't look very good. So that's all I knew about him.
But you don't remember him from Trump's first term?
I didn't pay attention to that stuff. I still
He was
like
basically
Trump.
known as like the godfather of MAGA.
Yeah, I know like there was a lot of liberal media stuff about how he was evil and whatever, but it didn't like I didn't look into it. Just, oh, he's evil. Okay, whatever. They think he's evil. But anyways, so he was talking about how Trump basically turned the Republican Party from the country club party into the working class, like populist movement in like less than a decade. So like the Democratic Party is now kind of like the party of the billionaires, Wall Street, and the Silicon Valley people. And of course, they use the poor who are on social services. And they also use the lower IQ people and the people who have mental illness. That's what I think. That's my views.
Well, they are. That's how I see them. I think most of us, let's be honest, most of us see the Democrat Party as the party of mental illness.
It is.
And I don't mean that in a kind of like ad hominem attack, mocking kind of way. It just is the party of mental illness.
Yeah. They weaponize these people against themselves, against all people.
Well, this is how you achieve that state of kind of you put everyone into like a socialist state, basically. This is where identity politics leads to. Like everybody is unique in their own fucked up way, and because of that, we're on a level playing field. Because you're your own special, unique, fucked up kind of snowflake, and so is everybody else. Because you're not just kind of dividing people among. It used to be male versus female. We're going to divide you that way. Then the liberals brought back racism and made it about white versus black. And then when everybody got tired of that, they threw Hispanics and Asians into the mix as well. And then it's about whether you're straight or whether you're gay. And then it's, well, trans comes into it now. And religion comes into it. And whatever kind, and classism comes into it. And you divide people like via more and more and more slices and cuts that you make. And eventually, everyone can be their own unique kind of thing, especially if you bring in an infinite amount of imaginary genders.
Yeah. So then it becomes like a a race to the bottom. But anyways, so he was also saying how in 2008, when they had the financial crisis over here, that the Federal Reserve chairman told the president, like Bush or whatever, I think it was Bush, that they needed to give $1 trillion bailouts by 5 p.m. or the whole global economy would collapse. And I guess they did that. And that's why we had the huge what's it called? Inflation started in 2008. Like it was like overnight inflation. I remember one day a coffee was $1.20, and the next day it was $3.
How much
Overnight.
does a can? How much does a regular size can of Coke cost
I have
in
not bought a
America?
Coke can in my life. I don't know.
Somebody in
Um,
the chat, how much does a can of Coke cost?
I'm just talking about like you go to a Cuban coffee house window, not like Starbucks. I don't know what that is, but like a Cuban coffee house window used to be like for a latte was like $1.20. For this little tiny, like a shot thing, a very strong Cuban coffee was maybe like 50 cents or something like that. And then it tripled the next day after this happened. And that's when everybody started jumping off the buildings and all that junk. Anyway, so
Oh,
the
wait.
elite, what?
Mr. Mister comes in saying it's between 160 and 199
For what?
for
For
a can
Coke?
of Coke.
Disgusting.
I remember when I was in school, a can of Coke in the UK was 20 pence. That's probably around about what, 25 cents, something like that, a fucking quarter for a can of Coke. And I remember that shit shot up in price. Cigarettes, even worse. How the fuck cigarette? The only reason I quit cigarettes in one day, I just went cold turkey. I was like, I'm never buying a pack of cigarettes again. And I stopped smoking when I was about, I think I was around about 19 or 20. Because a pack of Marlboro Reds went up from £3.80 to £5.20. It skipped a whole number from 380 to 520. And I was like, fuck this shit. I'm not giving these assholes my money. And everyone was like, oh, that's so good. I'm so proud of you. Your commitment. Oh, your willpower. So I was like, I'm not trying to fucking be healthy. I'm just not giving these fuckers my money anymore. Fuck you. I was like, seriously, I couldn't fucking believe it.
How old are you? 15
Oh,
cents?
yeah. What was that? Oh, yeah.
So, anyways, so that was like the first bailout that I remember in my generation, my olden age. And then, then he started talking about like the immigration and how it's like against American workers because his team, Bannon stole Bernie Sanders' old stance on immigration because Sanders used to say that open borders is like a Koch brothers. It's a Kutch or Koch brothers proposal. I don't know what their name is. I thought it was,
Koch brothers, is it?
yeah, something like that.
KOCH?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That they want open borders. And then he argued that the Democrats used to defend working class Americans from labor competition, but completely gave up on that in favor of like the corporate interest, which is, spearheaded by the Koch brothers. And that Bernie Sanders just like, after saying that forever, just completely 180'd on that.
Well, don't forget that Bannon actually sees himself as an old school liberal. He sees himself as what the Liberal Party used to represent. That's what he identifies with. But he recognizes that those are the values that, although part of it, when you hear people saying, "Oh, I never left the Democrats; the Democrat Party left me," right?
Mm-hmm.
That is in part true because they went so radically left. But the other part is that a lot of the values that the Democrats championed back in the day were values that they claimed that they stood for, but they never, ever, ever fucking actually did do anything to
Yes.
kind of
That's
like
what I
make
believe.
it happen.
They used to say we're the party of this and this and this,
Yeah.
but
And
no policy.
in reality, those are the things that the conservatives always stood for.
Yeah.
So a lot of the people are like a lot of the people who kind of voted left, who were uninformed voters, not that bright, kind of thought to themselves, I like these things. I like these things, and the Democrats say they're going to do these things, and I believe in those things, and they say that they believe in those things. And they also just kind of like seem like nice people. But I don't want to vote for the conservatives because they kind of seem about like they're just kind of like stiff and uptight, and they're kind of like a little bit unrelatable. They're kind of they're not very compassionate people. So they kind of seem a bit too kind of politician-y, whereas the Democrats are more relatable, and the Republicans in the US or the conservatives in the UK always seem a little bit kind of like fake or like business typey people, right? Which kind of pushed into that notion, that false idea that they were the party of the rich. And so these kind of less informed voters decided to vote for the Democrats because they were like, even if the conservatives or the Republicans have got good ideas, so do the left wing. The left wing have got good ideas too. They say they believe in these things, but they seem a lot more relatable, a lot more kind of compassionate. So I'll vote for them instead. And it's like, yeah, but everything they claim they care about, they never fucking do. Right? So if you still know a black person who votes Democrat in America, ask them, how long have they been promising you fucking reparations? Have you gotten them yet? Do you maybe think that they don't fucking believe in that shit and they're never going to fucking deliver on it? And if you still know any kind of blue or pink haired fucking university grad with a nose piercing who's still expecting to get their fucking student loans forgiven, ask them, do you see that happening in a widespread way? Do you think that everyone's student debt is going to get forgiven? Do you still fucking believe that shit? So why the fuck do you keep voting for them? Like, these are people who film themselves on TikTok talking about how if your boyfriend lies to you one time, dump his ass. But when the government lies to you 100 fucking times a second and you still fucking believe them, you still vote for them, why the fuck do you do it? How many times are you gonna let your government fuck you over? Like, these idiots have only voted. Whenever you see either Turning Point USA or anyone else like that, Charlie Kirk or whoever going to a student campus, these idiots literally vote on three things: reparations, abortion, and forgiveness of student debt. Have the Democrats made any actual real progress on any of those three fucking things?
Yeah, they just delayed the student loan debt until like we kind of like forgot about it, and then they put it back.
The next time Charlie Kirk or any of those people go to the campuses, they should just say, those three subjects, tell me, what have they done for you about those three things? Tell me what progress has been made.
They will just tell them, oh, it's because the Republicans didn't allow us.
And then just shut up and say, no, shut your fucking mouth. Shut your fucking mouth. Get off the camera. Then you just tell them, give me one coherent answer about any of that shit. And the moment they start waffling, just be like, yeah, you're retarded. Ask for your money back.
I still think if they give you like a BS degree, you should be able to like get your money back, to encourage universities to be selective, only have the amount of people in a program that you know their jobs for.
No, I think you should attack the universities.
What do you mean?
I think that your government should come for the universities. You should come for the universities. I think you should come for the universities in two ways. I think the first way is you need to look at what courses these universities are offering, okay? And then just be like, how many of those people, what kind of job can you get with these courses?
None.
And if you can't, I know, I think you need to do an equation to basically say, if you can get a job, any job that you can get from this with this degree, right? How much is it going to pay you? And how does that compare with what you are paying for your degree? Okay. And if it turns out to be, essentially like non-profitable, like you're wasting so much money that with the job that you get
Yeah.
off of this course, there's no way you're going to pay off your debt within about 20 years, then I think you should pay everybody back that you conned into doing that course. Those people should get their money back. Okay. Because they were cheated. And I wouldn't consider that a student debt forgiveness thing. I would consider that paying people's money back who got conned. You got ripped off by that university. So you need to hit these universities in the pockets, and you need to say,
Yeah.
any,
Sue them.
any, yeah, any universities that are continuing to offer these type of courses, like, like Ben Shapiro's joke about, oh, you're teaching lesbian dance theory, right? But there is courses that are generally this fucking stupid. Like that
No,
course that's
most of them.
offering, isn't there a course on fucking Taylor Swift? Like
All this
on
type of
her fucking
ridiculous stuff.
music? But whatever. Any of those courses, cut. If any of them have federal funding, cut it. If any of them have any kind of if they're profiteering in any kind of fucking way, then just say no, no, we're cutting you off. We're cutting you off. Um, I liked what some conservative businesses were doing, where they were saying, we're not employing anyone who's coming from this college or that university or whatever. We're not taking those students in
Yeah.
because of what the colleges were doing. But I think that those universities need to be publicly exposed. Say, look, this is what you guys are offering. There needs to, if Doge wants to do something cool in their free time, I know it's not like a government oversight thing, but if they want to do something cool in their free time, I think it would be really cool if they took some of these top Ivy League schools and just saying, look at the courses they're offering. How many of these students ended up getting a job that was worthwhile financially after the courses that they took at these universities? And to just say, look, this is how many students did these courses. This is where these students are now and what they're earning. This is how many students did these courses. This is what they're earning now, right? Compare and contrast universities in that way, not pass rates, like not oh, look, these students have all graduated with like this many. Look, I don't care how many of your students graduated. If you're an Ivy League, like in the UK, we've got Oxford and Cambridge, right? Those are the two big universities, right? And Oxford and Cambridge prided themselves on how many students graduate. Like all of our students graduated. Like we've got like pretty much 100% guarantee that our students are going to graduate. Like, of course they're going to graduate. You're taking students. You're taking students from secondary schools, right? That have got 3 A levels, and you're expecting. You're only offering places to the top like 0.1 percentile, right? You're taking people who've got AAA stars. Those are the people that you're offering places to. So if you take somebody who's on that kind of trajectory in life, who is already a great fucking success, how are they going to fail at your institution? Like you've made your job so fucking easy that you don't even need a teacher. These are students who are going to learn on their own anyway. Like many of these students could probably go to your university, never attend a single fucking class, but they're so genius level that they're going to fucking pass with flying colors anyway. Like that's essentially the grift of these Ivy League places. When you take people who are the top of the top of the top, and only the people who score like the best fucking SAT, who get the best SAT results, right? How the fuck are they going to fail when they get to you? You shouldn't be asking them to pay you. You should be paying them to come to your fucking institution. That's essentially what a scholarship is, right? Oh, we want you to come to our place. Yeah, but you're picking one dude, but the pass marks that you require from everyone else to come to your institution is through the roof compared to some other shitty college, right? So so how can you still expect them to pay like hundreds of thousands for a fucking degree that isn't going to make them any fucking money in life? And they just make you look good. At the end of the day, you can pat yourself on the back and say, everybody graduated. Yeah, because you picked the cream of the fucking crop.
Well,
How people don't see that this is a
yeah.
grift is ridiculous.
It's not just that. Like, we need to go back to where a summer job could pay off your school for that year. It doesn't anymore. And the government should not pay anyone. If you want to go to the school, either you get like such amazing, like the top like 2-3 students in every school, they get a scholarship, fine. But there's plenty of companies that can do that. The government doesn't need to do that. But like, let's say like companies or whatever will go and give scholarships for certain things to schools. That's fine. But like, the government doesn't need to do it. We don't need to do it for anyone. And we need to make sure that only a certain amount of degrees are given so that the requirements are even higher. Because if you're only needing like, I don't know, 40 employees and you have 40,000 people for that, what happens with most of these things is you get this huge influx of graduates for like 400 or 500 jobs, and then the value of them goes below minimum wage. So then you spent all this money, hundreds of thousands, sometimes 300,000 for your stupid degree. You're a PhD, you're a doctor sometimes in this thing, not like a medical doctor, but a doctorate. And then the jobs are paying like 10, 15 bucks an hour. Like, literally, that's the thing. So then you have people who are working, making pizza without a college degree, making more money and able to make more money. Plus, they don't have all the debt that they have to pay off. So, like, if you go to college now and you are not in like the, I don't know, top maybe like 2% of fields where like there's still high demand and not a lot of people can do it because it's too hard for them to go into that field. Like, if you go to anything that's even remotely simple or even known or easy, or of course anything that AI can do, you've wasted your time, your money. You're now a servant and your whole life is just paying back the college. It's not
Well, I
even
mean,
like saving money.
yeah, I'm convinced that today college is just part of the
Slavery, indentured
well, no,
servant.
no, yeah, it's a tool that the government's using to keep the public dumb. Um, and I know that that's kind of ironic since it's supposed to be a system of education, but
Public school
um,
too.
if you look at what a couple of people have noticed is one of the things that's plaguing society in the West today, and is a big part of why so many people aren't getting married and having kids, is because they've been enticed into this kind of lifestyle of having a prolonged adolescence.
Mhm.
So you know that there's something wrong with society when you see 40 something year olds making TikTok videos going hashtag adulting. You're fucking 40 years old. You should not be having hashtag adulting on your social media, right? Uh, but they're kind of patting themselves on the back that they know how to make a fucking meal, right? Or that they took their dog to the vet. Oh, I took my dog to like what? Like, well done. You kept your pet alive, which most kids learn how to do when they're fucking 7 years old. But when you get people to live in this kind of life of prolonged adolescence, um, especially by tying the burden of debt to them, okay? One of the ways, I don't know how it works in America anymore, but one of the ways in the UK is you don't have to work on paying your debt back, your student debt back, until you start earning money.
Yeah, here too.
Okay. So
Mhm.
what you usually see is you see people in their 40s and in some cases in their 50s
Going back to
still in
school.
university or still in college, and they're working on their fifth fucking degree, right? And you're like, right, how many degrees do you want? And when you look at their degrees, it's nothing that you can get work with, but it's fun. It's fun for them to go and pick up these degrees because these degrees are fucking stupid. It's kind of like I'm doing gender studies and I'm doing like music theory and I'm doing this. I'm doing drama. I'm doing this. It's like, and now, like we've said, you've got these dumber and dumber and dumber and more ridiculous fucking degrees that you can that you can study for, which is completely fucking ridiculous and stupid, but it's fun. So these idiots like going to that because it's like, well, it's fun and it's interesting and it's blah blah blah, and it's like I'm learning about how this particular fucking thing is a spectrum of like fucking stuff that you can't fail at, because
Yeah.
you literally just have to give a waffly answer and sound passionate about the shit that you're writing, and they're going to say, oh wow, that's so great, I can see you really thought about it, so you get an A. Like it's pathetic and it's stupid, but it makes them get this kind of like little endorphin rush of I'm good at this, I'm successful at this, and then you get that. By the way, 13, dude, great reference there. Like Paulie Shaw was fucking king in the 90s for playing an idiot, and most people will only think that this stuff was spoken about more recently, but we knew about this shit fucking years ago. Like I was gonna mention, do you cat know about this show called
Mhm.
Community?
I've seen clips. I haven't really watched it, but I know about it.
Right. It's really fun. It's about a
Mhm.
community college. But
Yeah.
when you go there, it's like the whole joke is supposed to be like nobody there knows how to run shit. And
Mhm.
when you watch it, you're going to think this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. They've got courses which is basically the history of ice cream making. And you just go and you make ice cream on a course, right? And there was like it's so many of the courses are just so fucking stupid. There's one which is called physical education, where you learn how to be a PE teacher, right? It's like it's so dumb. Like the whole thing is dumb, but then when you think about it, you're like, actually, this isn't a joke. This is fucking real. This is how stupid so many fucking campuses are. So many colleges are this fucking dumb. They're offering shit just as stupid as what we're seeing in this show. And that wasn't even the first show to actually point out the stupidity of that.
Yeah,
And I
we've
think
known about this.
it's all to basically make people think that they're becoming successful, but really you're just holding them back. And then you're tying this noose of debt around their neck. And they
Mhm.
realize that their only way out is like, well, I don't regret that because it was fun. And I think I learned something. So instead of getting a job right now, I'll just go back again and I'll just rack up more debt, and I don't need to pay my debt back while I'm doing this. And then it's like, well, I'll do another one. I'll do another one. And it's fun and it's cool being at college. And they're going to want to stay in college all the time, thinking that the debt that they're racking up is okay because I can postpone it so long as I stay in university. And I'll get handouts and I'll get a new degree. And eventually I'll get a degree that's going to click and going to make me money. And I'll be really qualified. So, yeah, but you'll also be like 50. So who's going to
Yeah.
hire you if you've got like 10 fucking degrees, but you're 50 years old and you've got no work experience?
And I think a lot of the liberal people ended up with in these situations, and it's cope when they're like, we don't want children, we don't want that, because they know they can't have children because they don't they they don't have anything. They have just debt to hand down to them. That's all that they have. They have nothing
Yeah.
else.
Yeah. But I think that if you get to the point where you basically, you need to break this system apart by, like I said, expose the colleges. And it's very easy to expose them. Just show, get the data together on how many students graduated from your institution of higher learning, and how much they paid for it, how much they paid for that piece of paper, and how much that piece of paper is making them now per year. Right? If you do the math on it, you're going to realize, and I said it your American way, the math, singular. You're going to realize that it is the least it is the least intelligent investment you're ever going to make in your life. There is
Oh yeah.
no sense in doing it unless you're going to do something which is going to teach you how to do fucking work with your hands. You're not going to fucking make any money. The
Yeah.
humanities departments need to be shut down. I'm sorry. They are the biggest grift in today's world. 30 years ago, 20 years ago, maybe, there was still some kind of validity to those subjects, but now they don't mean shit. But yeah, you need to you need to break that whole system apart. There's too much money in it, and all it's doing is it's holding kids back. It's keeping people out of the workforce rather than getting people into the workforce.
I
You
think
need to
that
bring back
every
apprenticeships.
oh,
Put more money into supporting apprenticeships and get people into the workforce that way.
I'm all for that because if you're just like really incompetent, nobody's going to take you on as an apprentice. So you know right away. Because there's so many people that they give them these degrees and then they can't do the job because
Yeah,
they're not competent. They might be book smart, but once they go out into the real world, they're too slow. They don't know what they're doing. They lose track. They can remember something for a test, but it's not there. They just don't have that capacity and they need to know right away like this is not for you, do something else. And an
like
apprentice,
the
they're not
most
going to waste
effective
time. Huh?
statistically, the most effective form of teaching is how they teach people in healthcare, right? I mean, that's a job that you're not really allowed to fuck up at. So if you look at how you get taught for that, what you're doing is 50-50. You're
Yeah.
doing on the job and in school, right? So 2.5 days, you're at college and you're learning shit. You're learning the theory. And then another 2.5 days, you're in the hospital and you're learning the practical side. And you've got a competency book that you need to get signed off on, right? So you're doing placements in the hospital and then you're doing theory in college. And once you've learnt the theory, you get a practical handbook that you have to take to your mentor in the hospital. And you're like, this is the shit that I've learnt the theory on. Now I need to put that into effect. So your mentor's going to put you on placements where you can demonstrate that you know how to do this shit practically. And you need to get signed off on that. And if in your first 4 months or so, if you haven't got that shit signed off to a competent level,
Mhm.
then you fail the course. You're gone.
Yeah.
Right? There's no second chances. You fuck up, bye. Now, if you keep up with everything, and you're going to have midpoint assessments. So they'll say, look, we're identifying that you're weak on this and this and this. They're going to try and help you get through it, right? So that by the end of your placement, you're like, okay, I've signed it off to a competent level. But then by the time you qualify, you need to bring that shit up from competent to proficient so that you can actually go and do the job. And this is how every single job should be taught, right? You're learning the theory at college, but like you said, what the fuck does the theory mean? If they say, oh, well done, you passed, here you go. All as we know is that you can do that shit in theory. And
Yeah.
then how is that fair for your employer? You go for an interview and the employer can't even say, look, I need to see you do the fucking job. It's like, oh, just by talking to you, I'm supposed to see whether or not I want to hire you. And now I've hired you, I've given you the opportunity, right? But really, you're fucking garbage. And in today's world, it's really hard to fire people for being
Yeah.
bad at their job.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you still got to pay them some shit. No, I don't want to pay you shit. You wasted my time and my money, and I paid you, and you couldn't do the fucking job that you told me that you could do, right? I need to see you do it before I can give you the job.
I remember for psychology, we had first they allowed everybody to join psychology. So there was like, I don't know, millions of people who graduated in 1 year. And and there was maybe like a couple hundred jobs for them. So a lot of them had to go into other things that had nothing to do with psychology. So I think the joke at the time was if you get a psychology degree or a business degree, essentially, it's just like a second high school. It didn't mean anything. No jobs cared. Only like you could be entry level for pretty much any type of job that just said you need a college degree. Like you were just like an entry level for whatever business. And I had friends that did not go to college and they worked at like, like selling like fast food or whatever, like small little restaurants. And they would just move up the chain, become managers, become, regional managers and go up. And they ended up getting homes and all that stuff. And they had no college debt. Whereas everyone who went to college who looked down on those positions, and the people who didn't go to college ended up in more debt and less opportunities than those people. So it was just like really interesting. There is, of course, a few people and every type of thing that like they make it, but it's really rare. And it's only like I have connections, and that's why I'm getting these jobs. Like so and so in my family works at this company and they have one position, I'm gonna get it. Or like my family has always worked in this hospital, so I'm going to get that position. But the majority of people who have to apply and they don't know anybody, they don't get anything in the field. So they have to go to random stuff. And it's just like having the college degree for most jobs is putting a lot of people back, because you can't say everybody needs to go to college. And now more than ever, it's just complete random junk that they're teaching. We have people who are graduating that don't know how to spell, they don't know how to read. If they couldn't use like a word processor or a calculator, they couldn't do anything. And we
I
do
don't know
have
what
word
it's like.
processors and calculators. So like, what are we even doing now?
I don't know what it's like with you guys, but like we caught on in the UK, we caught on that the whole university thing was a grift, and people stopped going, right?
Yeah.
And then what
Really?
the Labour government did was that they made it so that even for the most basic minimum wage job,
Mhm.
you needed to have some form of
Oh,
degree.
that's what they were doing? They probably did that
Yeah.
here too.
So
These bastards.
somebody was even joking that even if you want to work stacking shelves in a fucking
Yeah.
shitty supermarket, you need some kind of higher education for that.
We need to make
And they're
that
saying that,
illegal.
yeah, because literally there was a job application where it was listed under postgrad. You needed to be a graduate, right?
Mm,
And it was literally to clean toilets in some kind of mall or something.
ridiculous.
Like you're
Ridiculous.
cleaning toilets. Like what kind of degree is there for that? Like seriously, like it's unfucking believable.
Yeah, they can't tell time anymore with like the old timey clocks. They need like a
Yeah,
digital clock.
that's
It's
quite
it's
worrying. I saw that shit on like some kind of Facebook video where like they were saying
yeah,
like, what time is it?
it's getting bad. I have to quiz my kid all the time. What time is
But
it?
they're
She's like,
asking these girls like some trampy looking girl in like a fucking boob tube with her like ass hanging out of her dress, and they're like, and she's got like lips inflated like a baboon sphincter, and they're like, oh, can you tell me what time it is on this? And, like she's smiling there and trying to be like, no, but I can do this and this and this, and like talking about how she's a whore, right? It's like these are the kind of girls that if they're on the whatever podcast, would be like, I'm a 10. You can't rate yourself a 10 if you don't know how to even fucking tell the time. I'm sorry.
ooh, that's interesting. Do you think that like guys care? Because there's a lot of like beautiful women that they can't tell time, they can't read, they can't spell.
Well, okay. Okay, first of all, from a practical standpoint, for her own sake, if you're going to be, as I suspect with girls like this, having a future as a sex worker, you need to know how to charge by the hour. So telling the time is a skill that you need to know, right? So for her own sake, she should know how to be able to do that. Um, but with regards to whether or not the guy cares, I told you this before a few weeks ago that
Hmm.
there is such a thing as the right kind of stupid.
Oh God.
And no, I mean that as a compliment. So we do get attracted to that kind of not it's not simply naivety, but it is also a level of stupidity, but it has to be a controlled level of stupidity. Too much, and you're genuinely like, I can't. I'm sorry. Like you do say to yourself, I can't really put my dick in this. This is I'm gonna feel like I'm losing some kind of self-respect. So you can't have that kind of girl like who genuinely doesn't even know how to tell the time.
I'm just worried that guys' bar is so low now that we're just going to get into idiocracy faster. Not that we're not already there, just like full blown, like ooga boogas.
Mm. By the way, going through the chat, just
Yeah.
wanted to say somebody asked if I seen the IT Crowd. The IT Crowd is one of the best shows in recent years. The IT Crowd is fucking amazing. If you haven't seen it, watch it. If there's anybody in the chat who hasn't seen it, watch it. IT Crowd is phenomenal. Another one, I don't know how well it would do in America. I don't know if Americans would kind of click with that kind of level of humor, but it is a bit similar to IT Crowd, is Peep Show. Peep Show is really fucking funny. I kind of know both of the actors in it, and they're just as funny in real life as they are on the TV show. It's a really, really good show. But Peep Show's brilliant. One of the guys was my neighbor, and I actually met him on the day that one of my exes forced me to watch the first episode. And it was the most surreal experience in my life because I binge watched about 6 episodes, and I just left my flat to go and do a bit of shopping. And he went the same route as me, like about 5 minutes down the road to a shop, and he wanted to go buy some cigarettes. And the entire walk, I'm like, this guy looks really familiar. And it wasn't until like we both walked into the shop and I like saw him front on rather than out the corner of my eye that I realized, holy shit, I've just been watching like the show with you. And I didn't do any drugs, but I was drinking quite a bit. So I was wondering, am I like imagining this? Or is this really the guy that was in the show? And it was the most bizarre experience. But yeah, watch Peep Show and IT Crowd if you haven't seen it. Really good fucking show. Like
Oh, so
hysterically funny.
okay. So I also wanted to talk about what Steve Bannon said about Silicon Valley being an apartheid state. Did you hear about that? Do you agree with that? It's so crazy, but it makes total sense. And I didn't know it was this bad.
Okay,
So,
in what sense? Okay, how do you think it makes sense?
well, this is just what he said. So I'm just going to like read my notes from what he said. Okay. So he said, there are no blacks or Hispanic Americans in tech, right? So it's like basically like Indians, Asians, and some whites, right? Probably white females mostly, let's be honest. And, the letters people. So anyways, he was saying that Silicon Valley says they're really progressive, but they completely exclude blacks and Hispanics from any high-paying tech jobs. That major tech companies push diversity in their marketing and public relations, but they've done nothing to include minorities. And he said Silicon Valley became extremely racially segregated under like the Obama administration and that okay, and that Google, Facebook, Apple, Amazon have single-digit percentages of Black and Hispanic employees in engineering and leadership roles. And he complains that diversity hires that they showcase are primarily in very low-level, non-technical positions like customer support and shit like that. And that the percentage of Black engineers in Silicon Valley is below 5%, despite, Black Americans making like about 13 or more of the population. And he argues that companies would invest in training programs to recruit from historically Black colleges if they really cared about diversity, but they do not. And then they use the H-1B visa program as a tool to suppress wages and maintain the segregation that they to exclude American workers, which are particularly the Black and Hispanic Americans, from any tech job. So they get their workers from India and China, spending 50% less than what an American engineer would make. And let's see. And he asked them to show one person on an H-1B visa who is smarter, better trained, or more skilled than any American worker, and they were not able to do that. They just kept like dodging this question. This is what he said. He asked someone, and then he said, H-1B workers are often trapped in their jobs because their visas are tied to their employer. So these workers will live in, I didn't know this, overcrowded conditions, like 4 or 5 men in working like 20 hours plus for really little pay in one apartment. So they'll like put them in an apartment with like 5 people. Ridiculous.
Yeah. There's this is something that happens in a lot of jobs in the UK, particularly hospital workers. If you go and this isn't a joke, this isn't me being kind of, this isn't a hyperbole. But if you go to any hospital in central London, I could literally give you, like a £5 note for any white person that you can find working in the hospital, and I would still have more than half the money that I've got in my wallet. You're not going to find any English speaking white dude working in a hospital. Well, I'm not saying you're not going to find any. You'll find them. But it's not going to be that much. I'm not going to be out of pocket by that much. I'm one of 2 white dudes that works. I'm one of 2 English white guys working in my whole department. And because pretty much all of the other guys working there have their visas tied into the job, it's not so much that they have to like live in crappy accommodations, which they do, but it's more the fact that they will do in a job that's really, really, really restrictive and controlled with regards to policies and practices of what you can do because of safety issues. But they will break about 85% of those on a daily basis because their managers tell them to, and they're afraid of arguing with their manager because they're afraid they're going to lose their job. They're like, I have to do this. If I don't do this, I might lose my job. They'll report me and I'll lose my job. And
So
the sad fact is, sorry?
No, this is like also reminds me back to like you know, when you had to get the jabby stabbies and stuff like that. Like if the people who work in healthcare are under these conditions, they're gonna do it even if you don't ask for it. They'll do it under like because they're doing it under duress. So it's just like it's if they also put them in the military, in the healthcare system, monitoring them, if they put them like in, you know, like checking up on these are like people who are basically slaves that were come here to like watch the other slaves.
The funny thing is that when you look at how see, many of these people that came to the UK to work came from places where your manager can fire you for anything. He doesn't like the look of you, he can fire you.
Yeah.
They can just tell you not to come into work the next day. They don't realize that in the UK you can't do shit like that. You're protected, right? So if somebody tells you to violate safety policy because they want to make some extra money, they want to rush things along, they want to cut corners. So they don't want you to do this, they don't want you to do that, they want you to do this, they want you to do that. And it's the whole purpose of this shit is because of, you know, safety, right? This is why we do this stuff. This is why we have these policies in place. But they will do whatever the fuck they're told by their managers, even though it's gross violations, right? They all do it because they're afraid they're going to lose their job. And you can't tell them. You cannot tell these people this is how terrified they are. You can't say to them, let the person make a complaint. Tell them to take you to HR. Tell them to make a complaint. Tell them to take you to report you to your governing body. They will be the ones to lose their job, not you. But they're so damn terrified that they won't do it. And many of these people, when they go for this job, right, if you do overtime, which many of these people do, because they will run business way past operating hours, Like even with elective stuff that's not safe to do, and you shouldn't, according to policy, be doing it, they'll do it. Why? To make extra money. But when you do this in the cases of emergencies, if you work out of hours, you get put on a higher pay rate, but you have to enter that in yourself. And in most hospitals where I know where people work, they have to do this themselves. They have to put in an application. I'm working at this time. I'm going to submit my hours, and you submit your hours on a higher pay rate because you're working outside of normal hours, right? And we're supposed to be told this, right? And we know that this is what we're entitled to. But any of the foreign workers that come in, they don't get told that. They don't know that. They get paid peanuts because most of the people who live in our country know that you get out of hours payments if you work out of hours, but that isn't a thing where they come from. So they're not expecting it, and their managers don't tell them they're entitled to it. So these people are subjected to like horrific stuff. Like, it's a terrible, terrible thing that's going on. And one of these people found out about that after working for this company for 15 years. And they were like, you're telling me that every single time I stay after a certain amount of time, a certain time, I'm entitled to this. And they're like, but I've been doing that almost every single day that I've worked. It's like, yeah, you could have been making minimum at least £350 more per week, but nobody told you to claim it. And this person literally just started crying.
Jeez.
I mean, it's really, really, really shitty.
Mm-hmm.
But, and then when you see how these people live, like you said,
Mm-hmm.
a whole bunch of people living in one flat. These people are living in the most terrible fucking conditions, because what's going on in London is disgusting. Like, you see these old properties in central London. You see some of the oldest properties that have been around, and they were built back when people knew how to live. So a living room was a big living room, and a bedroom was a big bedroom. But you see these landlords that have just got some, cash in hand paid builders to come in and basically put false walls in, and crappy little doors and stuff. And these people are like living in a bedroom that's been divided into two shoebox bedrooms. So you see about 12 people living in one flat that only about 4 people are supposed to live in, probably. All sharing one kitchen, all sharing one tiny bathroom, one tiny toilet. It's crap. It's absolute awful. And they pay what you would normally pay, 10 years ago for a double bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
I know a girl who works in our hospital who pays £1,500 a month, and I can't stretch my arms out in her bedroom without touching the walls. Like, it's sad, and these people are getting away with it. It's fucking ridiculous.
So, do you think?
You can't comfortably live in London unless you're a criminal.
Yeah, I would say here too. Here too. You know how, like, when America started, they imported a lot of indentured servants, like the Irish and all those people. They imported them here, and they kind of had to work and to earn their right to be a citizen. And then once they became like citizens, then they had to like import more people. So then they did like other cultures or whatever, and then they did slavery, and then they freed the slaves, but then they kind of still made them work like the lower end jobs for very little pay, and then they got rights, and now they're having to import people and do these stupid things, loopholes.
Well,
At a certain point, there's going to be no more people to import because you've done it to every culture and every people. You've moved them around, and it's like they know, like, the game, like you're importing us so that you can use us for our labor and like run us to the ground. I mean, that's like all they're doing. Maybe that's why they're going to war, make a place inhospitable so then people want to move, and then make them indentured servants, basically.
Well, there was nobody had a problem with indentured servitude. because if you look at how it actually worked, like when it was the standard, it was actually a very good way for people to get their way out of poverty. So initially, okay, indentured servitude got a bit of a bad rap when it came to the point where people were forced into it, right? Um, it wasn't simply people in America importing indentured servants. It was Britain shipping indentured servants out to the New World because Britain was invested in expanding America and settling America. So, so it got to the point where we didn't have enough indentured servants in America working. So I think it was King James at the time started emptying out our prisons. And then they took, I think it was ultimately about 3/4 of the male population of Ireland from the age of 12 and above that were shipped out to America as well, all to work as indentured servants. And the agreement was that you would go there and you would work. And depending on your situation, you would work, I think it was 5, 10, or 15 years. Um, and after you worked off your time, you would be given land of your own, a property of your own. In fact, usually it was one of the last things you would do is you would work on building a property, you know, building a home for you and ultimately what would become your family. And you would have a big patch of land attached to it. And you'd also be given payment for the work that you did over that time to get yourself started. And you'd be given indentured servants of your own. And people were like, that sounds a bit too good to be true. The whole goal was that they wanted this very quick expansion across America to settle everything. And don't forget that at the time, slavery, when the settlers arrived in America, slavery was illegal. They brought their values with them. Slavery was illegal. Now you had the Portuguese slave ships coming from Africa trying to sell slaves at markets. But at the time, and this is something that a lot of books like to lie about, at the time, and this is something that is a lie that's so prevalent that if ever you argue with a black person who's into reparations, they'll basically say, you can't say that the Irish were slaves. The Irish were indentured servants. Blacks were slaves. It's like, no, at the beginning, all of you were indentured servants. And they'll say, no, 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 the blacks were slaves. The blacks were sold into slavery. That's true. The African kings and tribal leaders sold their own people to the Portuguese slave traders and other slave traders, sold them as slaves. But when those ships arrived in America, they knew that they had to sell them as indentured servants. If they sold them as slaves, they would have gotten killed. And there are many accounts, many historical accounts, many diaries of many law enforcers at the time who spoke about how they beheaded slave traders because slavery was illegal. So eventually, there was a court case in Virginia, a very, very famous court case in Virginia that's not really taught to kids in school because it upsets the whole race baiting angle. But it's a court case in Virginia in 1655, which led to the legalization of slavery. And obviously, Virginia at the time was a Democrat state. So it's the Democrats' fault that you have slavery. I mean, obviously, we all know that they fought a war to keep their slaves, but they actually legalized slavery in the first place. And have you heard of John Case and Anthony Johnson, the court case? So this is funny. This is funny if you ever hear anybody trying to race bait about how America invented slavery or how America was terrible because of their history of slavery. Because technically, slavery in America was the fault of Black Americans. I'm sorry. There's no other way to say it. Not just the Democrat Party because they legalized it. But so here's the story. You have these two guys, John Case and Anthony Johnson. And Anthony Johnson took John Caser, who was his indentured servant. If you read the story, they like to conflate indentured servant and slave many times. But John Caser was basically Anthony Johnson's indentured servant. and he was loaned as property to a friend who needed some work done on his land. And Anthony Johnson owed money to his friend, and they agreed that he would repay it by loaning him his indentured servant. So his indentured servant worked for him, and he worked for this other guy until his service time had completed. And after that, the friend set him free. He's like, okay, you've completed your time. I knew until when your term of indentured servitude was. And once you completed it, I let you go. And he told Anthony Johnson about this. Anthony Johnson was furious. And he took John Kaser to court, saying that he was basically running away from his duty. He owed him more time. And in the court case, the judge found in favor of Anthony Johnson, and that Kaser was guilty of trying to escape his service. And the punishment was lifelong bondage. And that punishment paved the way to the Democrats legalizing slavery, because they said, well, if we're going to recognize that we can punish somebody with a lifetime of service, lifelong bondage, then how is this any different to slavery? So that means that because there's a legal precedent set that we allow slavery, even if it's as punishment, what's the problem with us just legalizing slavery? And they did. And this Virginia court case in 1655 basically paved the way for that. Now, the kicker is that Anthony Johnson was, well, John Kaser was a black man. But Anthony Johnson, who ended up owning John Kaser, right, in the first case of legalized slavery, right, Anthony Johnson was also black, which kind of makes that story hard to tell in super progressive places today. And it's kind of like, well, if you just shut up and didn't take him to court, there's an argument to be made that, well, would you have been able to legalize slavery? Because that court case kind of paved the way for it.
Interesting.
Well, people don't like to hear that.
Yeah.
The first technically legal black man in America ended up being a slave because of another black man who took him to court.
Well, I do believe, like, if you stop working and you basically become homeless, starve, lose everything, whatever, I think you're still a slave.
Sorry?
If you stop working tomorrow and you lose your home, you can't afford to eat, you can't afford healthcare, whatever, you can't afford anything to like survive, you're still a slave. They can say, "Oh, I'm going to give you this token, you're going to use that to get your food and your this and your that." But you're still like, we're still like, in Disney World
Property.
playing with, we're still playing with like the company card, it's the same thing. Until you reach the
You're
point where you can
free
stop.
insofar as they allow you to be free.
Yeah. So it's an illusion of freedom. Now, the people who have some freedom are the people who own their own businesses. And if they want to close it down for like a month or whatever, they can do that. Nobody can tell them. Of course, of the people
Well,
who
think
own their own
about
businesses, very little can do that.
what happened during the time of the lockdowns and all the people who had their own businesses. How free were they?
Here we were, but a lot of places they were told they were not able to open their businesses and they had to lose their business, lose everything they put into it, or they would give them things like, okay, make an outdoor space. So they'd spend like $100,000 in debt to make an outdoor space that was like a fake indoor outdoor space. Remember, like they had a roof and like plastic walls and stuff or whatever it was. And then as soon as they did that, the city would be like, no, this isn't good enough. You need to make it like this, break all this down. So they would do that to the businesses until they freaking ran out of money.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you had an online business, you were still good to go.
Well, talking about slavery and
Mhm.
talking about um what's it called? Da, 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 da. Sorry, it's late and I haven't been drinking.
Oh no.
I know it's difficult to think. Um, yeah, so the slavery issue that we were talking about, and
Yeah.
also the politics side of things.
Mhm.
Um, I just wanted to kind of ask you, or I don't really know how to kind of talk. I'm trying to talk about it in a way that's not going to get us strikes.
Oh my gosh. No,
No,
I
it's
don't
not
want to
that
talk about
bad.
any people.
No, it's not quite that bad.
Okay,
But
no jabby stabby talk and no weird
there
people.
was some jabby stabby talk that I wanted to ask you about. But um, uh, okay, well, because we were talking about the issue of migrant workers or illegals earlier on. Um,
Mhm.
if you look at no, it's not really that bad to say that. But
Mhm.
if you look at the argument that liberals always make for
Mhm.
illegals being let into the country and not deporting illegals, what argument do they always make?
I don't know. It's mean.
No, there's one where they try to talk about how these people are holding society together.
Oh, I don't know. I've never heard that.
Well,
Does
you've
that
never heard
mean
them the argument. You never heard liberals make the argument of like, well, who's going to do the jobs that nobody else wants to do? Like picking.
I've heard that on television, but I haven't heard an actual real life liberal say it. So I don't know if they actually say that, but what I have heard is, oh, it's mean and stupid
Well, no,
nonsense.
yeah, I've heard them even in this country make the argument of, but they do the jobs that nobody else wants to do, right? Um, and I was actually debating somebody recently that
Mhm.
was making the argument. That was making that same argument. If they're doing the job that nobody else wants to do, and this was an American, and they were like, "Well, if we get rid of those people, do you know how most of them work in agriculture, right?" And they were in California, and they were basically saying how like, oh, they used to have programs in California to have volunteer workers or people coming from other countries to come to America, and they would have shit provided for them. They would get money and they would have accommodation if they would do a certain amount of hours in the fields picking oranges, right? But these guys didn't want to do that. They wouldn't want to work. So the only way that many of these people who have these big groves of oranges, that the only way that they could make enough money to remain sustainable was via illegal workers, because illegal workers would come and do that. Nobody else wanted to do it. And this person was making the argument that, like, if you got rid of illegals, America would basically fall apart because so much work wouldn't get done. And statistically, a lot of right wing people kind of debunked this idea by basically actually going through how much work illegals do. And technically, I think it was something like 8% of them work, the rest of them don't work.
Mhm.
Um, But let's say that it is true. Let's say that these people are holding together America by doing this work that nobody else wants to do. Um, if you look at the history that Democrats are kind of trying to hide, which is that they initially were the ones who legalized slavery. They are the ones who fought a war to keep their slaves. They are the ones who established the KKK
Mhm.
to fight the what was called the Negro Republican Party at the time, because they wanted to crush opposition. And then they fought a war. Well, as I said, they fought a war to keep their slaves. Um, and then after they lost that war, they came up with the Jim Crow laws so that they could rearrest people who used to be slaves and put them back in chains again because slavery was still punishable according to the law, like as a punishment for crime. You could be used as slave labor. And That's the ugly history that the Democrats are trying to hide. But now their argument for saying that we need to allow illegal immigrants and not deport them, and they're trying to act so compassionate and call the Republicans, which was the party that was formed to free the slaves, they're trying to call them racist, and they're trying to call them bigots, and they're trying to say that these people are literally kind of like Nazis and worse than Hitler. When they're trying to say this, their argument is, we need illegal workers because they're going to do the jobs that you're not going to do. They're the ones who are going to be picking oranges and stuff. Replace oranges with cotton.
Yeah.
And now think about their argument.
Yeah.
They're trying to evade their dirty history. They're trying to hide from their dirty past of being the party of slavery. And the one defense argument that they can make for keeping illegals and not deporting them is to basically say, we want to use them as slaves. They are still the party of slavery. The big switch, the party switch, was a myth. Democrats have always been the party of slavery. And the argument that they're using to keep illegals in the country is still because they want to keep these people as slaves. That's all they want. That's all they've ever wanted. Cheap slave labor. They are the party of slavery. They always have been. They always will be.
Well, I mean, either way we are, in my opinion, unless we can stop working and not starve or lose everything. That's my opinion. But anyways, let's move on from that because apparently that's a little too close to things. So, the deep state and the government bureaucracy.
Oh, Kat.
What?
Because we mentioned, you were like, you want to talk about the poke and this and that. Just one quick thing about the poke.
No.
And it won't get you a strike. It won't get you a strike, I promise.
Oh my God.
But here's the thing. Just I told you before that I had to work on doing some stats for that, monitoring that stuff. But aside from that, if I wasn't educated in any way on the safety issues of it and the whole logistics behind it and how it was rolled out, how it was pushed through, how obviously it was a big scam and not safe at all. If I wasn't educated in that in any way, shape, or form, the one thing that would have made me raise eyebrows and think this is kind of weird is that if you looked at any hospital, and I've got many contacts who told me that this was the same across all of Europe and even in America. If you looked at who was getting the poke and who wasn't, all the healthcare workers, aside from those who had doctorates, so the doctors, the surgeons, the consultants, those guys, keep them out of it. But the rest of them, healthcare assistants, nurses, any other kind of people on that level, all of those people were getting the poke. All of them were getting it. Everybody, the managers, everyone else, all of those people getting. But those people at the top, the doctors, the surgeons, everyone else, none of them got it. None of them got it. On paper, they might have said that they got it. But what they were doing is that both of them were countersigning to say, I saw you get it. I saw you get it. I administered it to you. I administered it to you. So you have that signature and counter signature, but none of them were getting it. But everyone else on the lower ranks, they all got it. The people who were largely uninformed but working in that area were getting it, and they were happily sticking their badges on saying, I got the poke, right? But none of the people who actually knew the shit were getting it. And nobody was saying, hang on a second, why?
Well, they want to keep their positions.
Yeah. No thanks. I like to keep my blood running in my veins.
It is what it is. But moving on to the deep state. So, I knew that there was like, what's it called? Like a stable type of government that basically you don't appoint them. They're just always there. And they actually control the government in the US. So it's like they do all the behind the scenes stuff. They work with each other. They're the ones who are like shoveling the money around behind the scenes. And maybe you get like 1,000 or something like that people that you can hire. But again, you're not going to know like all the roles and who to hire. So you might, like they're kind of hoping that you just kind of go with like whoever's there is fine. And you'll just put like a couple hundred of your friends in positions to like oversee things. But the people who are doing the stuff that really don't move around from administration to administration, those are the ones that they're saying like these are the people who are behind the scenes really running the show. And that's why when Trump first got into office, he didn't know about that. He didn't know about all those positions. So like these bureaucrats were the ones who were like kind of doing everything. And that's why like they don't care like who's a president or whatever, because they know that since they kind of like stay stagnant, they can still do what they're doing behind the scenes. And since it's such a huge operation, whatever president and his like measly couple hundreds or thousands of people can't catch on to anything. And that's how like it had always been running. So now that Elon is there and he's like, he said he was using AI to kind of track like where this money was going. And like it was like hidden corp and hidden like 20 steps deep, but because he had AI, he could figure that out. And that a lot of the stuff, the money in the government that was being given out, it was on like reoccurring payments, and they don't put like what it was for on.
Oh
So
yeah,
it's like
yeah.
it's like a blank check or whatever. So like they would just like renew all the time because nobody shut it off. So these people are getting like millions and millions of dollars a month or whatever, and we don't know
On a
why or
contract
who.
that only should have been about 4 months, a 4 month
Yeah,
contract, but it's unlike renewed. Yeah.
exactly. And he's like, just by having them mandatorily have to say what it's for and from who and whatever, that's like $1 trillion they'll save. It's like
Yeah, I
ridiculous.
think he said something like they saved, was it 120 billion on that or something? He predicts that they'll save. I forget.
Yeah, he said like 100 billion or something like that. So like $1 trillion just by having them say what the money is for. And then he found like, of course, lots of shady stuff has been found. Lots and lots of shady stuff. And then going back to Bannon, he was saying that like the election, like the mail-in ballot things, 74 million people voted for Trump in 2020, 12 more than in 2016, but he, did not win. And because they were using like the mail-in ballots, and I think in California and New York, you don't have to even show your ID. It's illegal to show your ID to
Well,
go
see,
vote.
this is people are still. I mean, I think it was PolitiFact or something like that. Some obviously dodgy kind of like fact checking sites were still claiming that Elon's statement was false. They're still claiming because he said that illegal immigrants can vote in New York City in state and is it civic elections? I forget which ones. Two separate elections illegals can vote in, he was saying.
Mm,
And they were saying like, no, that's not true, that's not true, that's not true. And then he said, but it's illegal, was it in New York and in California to show your ID? Like he said, like even if you want to show it, you're not allowed to show it when you're voting.
yeah.
And they were like, yeah, well, obviously, if you wanted to rig an election and if you wanted to have illegals voting an election, that's the best way to do it. It's to basically say you're not allowed to show your ID. So, I mean, yeah, like I mean, for us in Europe, if that's true, for you guys in America, that's fucking insane. That's like genuinely insane to have that as a
Yeah.
rule. Like,
So basically, this is the playbook they use to like control the government. In Cuba, they did the same thing. They found like a poor group of people, and they're like, oh, you're a minority. They're like, ruining your lives and blah 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 blah. So then, and then people who were nice, like, oh, we are, oh my God, we're so sorry. Let's vote to give you guys all these free benefits, blah, 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 blah. And then more and more people start claiming that they are whatever this disenfranchised peoples,
Yeah.
right? So they could get the free stuff. And as soon as they had enough people on the free stuff, they're like, we can win an election. Let's go. And then boom, that takes over. And as soon as they win, they're like, okay, everybody with property and whatever, you lose everything. We're going to give it to the people who were helping us, like in the military type people, gave it to the military type people, their friends, whatever. And then everybody who owned property, owned businesses, they left if they could. If not, most people like would starve because they took everything from the farmers and they put their own people there and they didn't know what they were doing. And it was like a big mess. And that's what they do all the time. And they were gonna do it here. It was like literally this close if he did not win so much that they couldn't cheat. That's where we would be right now. We'd probably be on like the brink of like some sort of starvation or whatever. They'd be taking our property rights away. They'd be taking,
Well,
and the
did you
people
see that?
who, what?
Did you see that section in the Rogan interview with Musk where Musk spoke about why he went so hard on campaigning for Trump?
Yeah,
Because he
because
could
he
see what the
knew.
Democrats were doing. Yeah.
Yeah, he knew
They
if
were going to
he didn't.
basically,
Yeah.
yeah, they were going to basically tie the system up so much that you would never be able to get rid of them, which makes sense because that's why they were saying that Trump was such a dictator. Oh, he's a dictator. He's never going to give up power because, come on, like the Democrats have got a history of constantly accusing the other side of doing what they're doing. So they knew that they were trying to tie up everything to the point where you'd never be able to get rid of them.
Yeah.
And that's why they tried to say, well, no, that's what Trump's doing. It's like, nah, bitch, that's what you're doing.
Exactly, because like we always know when somebody starts screaming, you're doing this. Trump
Yeah.
already had the chance to do that if he was going to do that. He was already
Yeah.
the president. So it's like, what are you talking about now? He was already the president for 4 years. He did not do that. So you're screaming that so much because that's your plan.
Yeah, and you know what also is not a good look and doesn't help you look like the trustworthy candidate? When your side's constantly trying to lock up your political opponents. Like,
Exactly.
you know what? I mean, the whole thing before about they're trying to take away our reproductive rights. We're going to give you reparations. They hate you. They're racist. That's one thing. But like when you ignore statute of limitations and when you kind of escalate what's just misdemeanors to felonies and you constantly come out with all kinds of Russian collusion shit and everything else,
Mhm.
and it's very clear that you're trying to just jail your political opponent, it's not a good look. That is very yeah, that is, you know, and at the same time you're accusing the other people of being fascists. Yeah, it's just not a good look. The optics there aren't good.
Okay. Did you hear what he was saying about the military industrial complex and the perpetual war machine and how like Trump is trying to end all of that stuff?
Well, yeah, I mean, he kind of already did that the first time round.
Yeah.
I mean, what, like under Obama, you guys were technically at war every single day of his eight
Yeah.
years.
Yep.
And under Trump, that just pretty much stopped.
What happened?
What?
So, okay. Oh, the tech oligarchs switching sides. So
Well,
like how Zuckerberg and Bezos flipped from progressive Democrats to Trump supporters once he won. Because they're trying to.
let's be fair though. That's because they're pussies. Whoever's in charge, they're gonna lick the ring.
I think they're scared, like of
Well,
being
yeah,
maybe
that's what being
persecuted
a
or
pussy
whatever,
is.
or breaking them up because they're monopolies, both of them. So now, like after the 2020 situation, a lot of people went online, like online businesses, like small business became online businesses. And in order to like you had to be in a shopping center with foot traffic before, but if nobody's going out, you need a place that has some sort of traffic already, because it's really hard to build site traffic, website traffic. So a lot of people went to Amazon, and now Amazon is taking all of their products, whatever, and remaking them, finding who their suppliers are and stuff like that, because they require all of that, right? So if you want to sell on Amazon, they need to know who your suppliers are, the cost you pay, the margins, like how much more, whatever you're putting on it, all that stuff they have to know. So what they started doing was they started going, okay, we know what the most profitable items are. We know where they make them. We'll make it ourselves. We'll sell it on Amazon, and we'll just cut the regular people out completely. And they've been doing that like little by little.
We've got McDonald's at home.
Yeah. What do you mean?
There's a company that started.
No, I know about that. But what are you saying about McDonald's?
No, it's like when, you wanted your parents to take you to McDonald's, and they're like, no, we've got McDonald's at home. We can make our own shit.
Oh, yeah. So now we have a lot of small businesses that are like screwed over. But the one thing that Amazon has done poorly that's going to make them lose everything, or unless they plan to do it, because maybe they think 10 steps ahead of us.
They do.
Damn it. So maybe they thought of this. Maybe that's part of the plan. Okay, so now let's say like 10 companies want to sell the same product. Like you buy like this brand of water, whatever. A whole bunch of different companies can become like a wholesaler or whatever, get the product wholesale. And then they can sell it on Amazon from their online business, right? So what they're doing is they're putting it all in one bin. They're not separating it by seller. So some of them might have a bottle that looks like water, but it's like fake stuff in it. Like God knows, whatever. They put additives, poison, but they put it all in one bin. So random ones get chosen every single time you get the product. So you don't know if you're getting an authentic product, a knockoff product, a poisoned product. Nobody's checking the products. So Amazon can basically they've been like literally like poisoning people, killing people with these products that are fake or poisoned or whatever, and they're untraceable, right? And Amazon has like, if you buy from Amazon, you don't give them liability. And if you sell on Amazon, you don't give them liability. So Amazon, according to like whatever you sign to do business with them, they are not liable. So if whatever happens to you, that's your problem. So now I'm thinking they might be doing this, like allowing this to happen, like knowing it's going to happen, so that eventually they can go, okay, now you see, because you people can't be trusted to sell and we don't have the infrastructure to test every product, now we're just going to have to do it ourselves. So now we will have to go find your suppliers directly and order directly from them and cut the middle people out completely. And that way you can't poison anyone.
If you look at Jeff Bezos' own business plan, right? At the time, they knew how companies was basically the lifespan of companies, especially online companies. They knew that each company had a specific lifespan. Amazon has extended its lifespan by about 20 years of what was expected. Bezos never expected Amazon to last this long. And it was because what they didn't factor into that equation was that society itself was changing with how it was doing its shopping practices. And society became more kind of attracted by convenience, right? And online shopping, especially what Amazon had evolved into, which was basically an online stop for everything you need. And also, as Spaceman said, conditioning tool, it's basically it makes you buy into your addictions. So you become addicted to platforms like Amazon without knowing it. But when you said that you thought that this was going to be something that ruined Amazon, there is one specific thing, actually two specific things that Amazon have bought into now fully. They're fully committed to doing this. And I think, especially if you look at the costs incurred by those things, that this is going to be the thing that ruins Amazon. If you look at a part of it is also what Spaceman pointed out, that it's a conditioning tool. Amazon wanted to become the new Netflix. And they realized that Netflix went from being just a simple thing where you could just rent DVDs to, instead of passing that money on to the people whose product they were shipping to your door, they decided that they wanted to get in on the game itself. So they started producing their own content. And then Amazon started realizing, why don't we do that? We should produce our own content. So they did it not only with the products that they're selling to you, the physical products, but they also started doing it with the actual media part. So they started making their own, producing their own movies and TV. And that has never been as successful for them as it has been for Netflix. Netflix has a better model. It has a better structure. It has a better way of distributing it. You have to look at how the weekly model goes versus dropping a whole series at once. Amazon just haven't been as good at the game as Netflix has. And media incurs a lot of costs, hidden costs especially. And the last couple of deals that Amazon has made, especially with Rings of Power, is hitting Amazon really fucking hard in the pocket. So much so that they've had to cover Amazon Studios' losses with their other projects. Yeah, they make Wheels of Time, but if you're a big fan of the books, DK Moon, you should realize that Amazon fucked that up royally. Yeah, because Wheels of Time is, a lot of people who love the books fucking hate Amazon for what they did. But yeah, Amazon's losing out big time. The amount of money they spent paying off Tolkien's family for the rights to the Silmarillion, which didn't give them the rights that they thought they had, which is why they can't use certain things, certain words like Hobbit, they're not allowed to say. So they made up this other fucking version of Hobbits called Halfords. Just the whole story itself is absolute fucking garbage. It's a poor quality product, but on top of that, their spending is ridiculous. They spent billions on that shit, and they're losing money on it. So I think this is gonna really cost them. And the only big project that they've got that might save them is Henry Cavill's Warhammer show. But the early stages of that show looked like it was just Amazon going to deliver another pile of shit, and Cavill could walk away from it. Because the deal because Cavill's girlfriend is producing it, essentially it's her. They wanted to produce it all themselves, and basically say Amazon Studios is just going to be a distributor. So you've got no creative input at all. We're making it. We've got final say on it, on how it's going to be, and we're just going to release it on Amazon. That's the only privilege you're going to have. If you want to be involved, yes. If not, fuck off. And Amazon apparently agreed to that. And then they started saying, no, we want you to do this. We want you to do that. We want to make it a feminist thing. And Amazon was so dirty that because Henry Cavill said, we're not doing that. We're not having women in these roles, like as soldiers within the Custodian Guard, which is like this one army that Henry Cavill plays. He's like, you can't have women do that. That goes against the law. Amazon approached Games Workshop, who own Warhammer, and they made them change the law to put women in that role. And then they went back to Henry Cavill and said, it's part of the law. Now we want women in it. This is how fucking dirty Amazon is. And that cost them, that little power move cost them allegedly tens of millions of dollars. And it pissed off the fans of the board game and the fans that were willing to watch the show. So Amazon keeps shooting themselves in the foot because of ESG shit, which, as Spaceman said, was because they realized that the media side is a conditioning tool. You can condition future generations like that. There's money in that. There's money in brainwashing future generations. What, Kat?
Okay, so let's go to Elon and Rogan. All right. 20 million deceased individuals are said to be marked as alive in the Social Security database, allowing for fraudulent claims in disability, unemployment, and medical payments. So that's fun. Let's see. A reported 55,000 Democrat-aligned NGOs were discovered running coordinated influence operations. 55,000. Crazy. And they were talking about weaponized empathy for social control. So like how the left-wing ideology exploits the Western civilization's empathy using issues like immigration, social justice, or whatever to gain political control.
But that's nothing new. That's happened throughout history for thousands and thousands of years. When you look at how any great empire falls, it usually falls because it's contaminated by a shittier culture that plays on its kind of virtue. When you're a big, rich, successful empire that likes to think of itself as being incredibly civilized, the only way you can show off that civility is by having compassion for people who are beneath you, because you don't want to look like an oppressive bully, right? And because you don't want to look like an oppressive bully, somebody's going to come along to you and say, oh, prove to us how great you are then. Prove to us how much better you are. Look after us. Be the big brother. Like, pay for our way. Give us free shit. Look after us. Let us come in droves and leech upon you. And you can't complain. Otherwise, it means that you don't want to share all of your goods. And then when you try to kind of pipe up and complain and say, hang on a second, you're taking the piss a little bit here, they're going to say, oh, but you only got this because you were oppressive. And to make up for your shitty past, you need to give us free shit. Okay? Mm-hmm. So that's been happening forever. Like, and many cultures realize this and realize that they don't have to try hard. They can just move in on other successful cultures and take them over from within by playing on their heartstrings in that way.
Yeah.
I mean, look at what happens to places like, oh God, you're going to get pissed off again.
Careful.
Okay. Look at what happened to Afghanistan. Afghanistan was once a very civilized Buddhist nation. Pakistan was once a very civilized, peaceful Hindu nation. Hindus known for being peaceful. Mm-hmm. Lebanon was a successful, civilized Christian nation. Mm-hmm. Egypt as well was Coptic Christian, very civilized. How did they all get overrun?
War and immigration?
Poor people came in. A specific group of poor people came in.
Let's not say what they are. We know.
Yes, but the first thing they did was they established a kind of building in which they could worship their own god. Then they created an enclave. It's the 9-step program. Establish your place of worship, create the enclave, grow the population, then claim victimhood. Then you resist host authorities and customs. Then you exploit lawfare. Then you institute Sharia. Oops, giveaway there. Then you secede and you take control from within. That's how you turn each one of those countries into Islamic states. So basically, that group of people, they're not the only ones who did it, but many people realized this is what succeeded in history for bringing down great civilized nations. That's what that was the way they always got defeated. because they try to prop up poorer groups. They try to invest in or save or rescue these people who've got backwards cultures who don't want to be rescued. They just want to be supported and grift. And because they're leeches will bleed you dry.
Mhm. So I want to address this comment. I do believe Candace Owens has 80K live viewers. Most of them I do not believe, but for Candace, yes, I do, because I know this is a sidetrack, but what she did with going over the case, what's the guy's name? Justin Baldoni and like what's that? Deadpool and his wife.
Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah, Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively. When she started getting into that, and then of course the Macron thing, when she started doing those two things, like people who were even on the left started watching her. So that's why I believe she can have 80K live viewers, because she is like, she doesn't care. She's going crazy, exposing stuff. And I heard she's talking to Eric Weinstein.
I can't remember now.
Harvey Weinstein. Yeah, not his
She
brother.
already
So,
talked to him.
yeah, so she was talking to him like while he was in jail, and he was like apparently telling her like some stuff that people don't know about, and she's going to expose all of that. So I definitely think she is getting those views, and I think she's because she doesn't care anymore. So I don't know, like, is she, I don't know if she is like mainstream media, like she's bought and paid for, because she technically left. But then again, they haven't banned her from YouTube yet.
It would be difficult to buy her.
So
She doesn't need money.
Yeah, her husband had money, but not as like, they're not bajillionaires or anything. They
She
just
doesn't need it. I don't think they can buy her. They can threaten her, but even then, I think she's
Well,
Mhm.
the reason why I kind of agree that it's, first of all, I do think she's bought. I don't think she's necessarily bought and paid, but she does come across as fake. I'm sorry,
There's
does.
an influence. I think there is an influence, but I don't think there's monetary, and I don't think there's necessarily threats.
She may have switched over to supporting the Republican Party. She may have given up on the Democrats and switched over to Republicans. And maybe she's legitimate in that. Maybe she genuinely believes that. And possibly that could be true. But her mentality is still that of a liberal. She will still argue when confronted about shit that she doesn't know about and she isn't prepped for.
Mm-hmm.
She reverts to her liberal style of argumentation. She doesn't have an intellectual and logical style of debating. Well, the reason why she comes across as fake to me is because she has never, ever, ever said anything that is an original thought. Everything that she says, she copy pastes from other people.
But isn't that 99% of people?
No, because if you look at the Daily Wire, most of what Ben Shapiro said was his original shit. If you look at the first books that he wrote, right, before his balls dropped, this guy was writing shit that was original. You could see that he took ideas from, let's say, 4 or 5 different people, but he synthesized that into like an original idea. And whether you like Matt Walsh or you hate him, and I don't agree with him on everything, but the stuff that he says and the approaches that he uses are original things. What he says is an original approach to confronting an idea. Okay? Clavin, everyone else, all the guys there will say original shit, right? Especially Jordan Peterson. But when you look at Candace Owens and Charlie Kirk as well, Charlie Kirk will read a million fucking books, but he will take everything from those authors and he will basically take the best aspects of every idea and repackage it in his own way. Okay? And he will look at ways to find original solutions to problems that students are facing, for example, whether it be economic, whether it be educational. But when you look at Candace Owens, she will literally just parrot back things that any of those people have said in the last 2 years. She will look at the most, and you can even see how she does it. Because if you go look back and if you watch her videos from when she did Turning Point USA with a couple of those guys, most notably Charlie Kirk, if you look at the stuff that she says, look at the timestamp, look at the date on those videos where Candace Owens did those. And now look at Turning Point USA videos from about 2 years prior to her videos, and look at the ones that got the most views. And you will see that the ones that got the most clicks, the most likes, she is saying everything that the people in those videos are saying. She's just parroting it back. So she just rehearses her shit. Sometimes word for word, she'll parrot shit back like it's her own idea. But unfortunately, a few times, some of those audiences got wise and they were watching those videos and they had comebacks for some of the things. And if you ever catch her where somebody confronts her in a way that she doesn't have a response for, you watch how she speaks. She goes from speaking like a very well prepared, very verbose, logical thinking person who's got your typical kind of conservative values to arguing like a crazy liberal person. She just starts shouting loud, interrupting all this kind of shit. She doesn't know how to think on her feet like a logical person, like most people who've got those conservative values inside them has. Because if somebody catches you on an argument like abortion or an argument like any kind of religious argument, if somebody catches you and you're a conservative with conservative values, you would know how to think on your feet and say, oh, okay, I never heard anybody say that. But on principle, I would say no to that, yes to that. And you're crazy if you think that this is allowed. But she doesn't know how to respond. She just gets aggressive and she reverts to the same ad hominem attacks that she condemns other people for. So that's why she comes across as a fake to me. I'm sorry. I just don't really have respect for her like some people do.
Well, I mean,
and sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, but just to say quickly, going back to that, who was it who said that they don't believe she's got 80,000 live views?
That was a while ago.
Yeah, but who was it who said that?
You're gonna order a hit?
I don't remember. I posted.
Well, whoever it was that pointed out, I think it was Mr. Mister, who said that like there's no way she's got 80,000 live. She's got under 4 million subscribers, right?
Yeah.
And if you look at how the ratio of live views to subscribers goes to, your live viewers are typically going to be usually will be 10% if you're lucky, 8 to 10%. So you're looking at like over double that she somehow gets. So I also don't believe it.
Yeah. So look, if she is just parroting things, that's one thing. If she's parroting things she believes in, like if she hears something and she's like, oh, I believe that's true, and then she parrots it, she could just be curating her beliefs, and I can let that go.
I said that. I can let that go and I can accept that. But the thing is if you believe it, when somebody catches you off guard, the fact that you inherently hold those beliefs would mean that when you have to think on your feet, you would still be given an answer that makes you seem trustworthy. She can't.
He's trying to say she's fake.
Fake? I don't know.
Did I just mansplain you?
That's fine.
It's okay to say the F word.
Okay. Anyway, stop. So,
faggot, hill?
No.
Well,
no,
yes.
Not that place.
That
We're
was
not
a
going
place
there.
in Ireland.
We're not eating that food either.
Down
Okay, we're moving on.
From Chediac.
Okay, stop. Okay. So let's talk about the Epstein list and why everybody's pissed off that it was a shite show.
Yeah, that was pretty crap.
Yeah. So I did hear from Ian Carroll, which I follow on the X Twitter, whatever it's called, that like that photo everybody was getting mad at, like everybody is coming out of the White House, or they've been given these files,
Yeah,
and they're all like, "Yay, we got them," whatever, and everyone's like, "How could you be happy about this?" and whatever, cheering and blah 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 blah. So apparently the camera crew was there for something else, and they kind of like asked them like, "Oh, like let's take your pictures or whatever," and like people were just excited to have their pictures taken, not necessarily for that. And
because
it
they
was
were
just
mostly
like,
little nobodies who had
yeah,
no
because they're
reason to
just,
be given those fucking files anyway. Wasn't one of them like a fucking some fitness influencer chick who barely had something like 20,000 subscribers?
dude, I feel like whoever's running it, like if it's Elon who's like, let's have these random people because they are the media now, blah, 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 from Twitter that I like. I think it's either like people that Elon likes to follow on Twitter, even though they're not popular.
I have an idea.
People he's trying to bang.
Yes, it's his next baby mom.
Some of them were men, so
Same thing.
Okay, whatever. I don't know. So it could just be like people he likes and he wanted a chance to like meet them, because some of them had like some funny accounts and stuff. So, I mean, it could be that. Also, somebody else pointed out that they were all happened to be, this is allegedly, little hat people. We don't know, but, it's a possibility. Who knows? So why would they let,
No, well, whatever it was, this is something where, like, look, one of the differences between conservatives and liberals is that we can call our own shit when they fuck up, and this was a fuck up. This was a fuck up. Yeah, like it should have been managed a lot better. This is a serious fucking issue that a lot of people cared about, and to release it in this big way, to be like, oh my god, we've got everything, we're going to leak everything. First of all, saying you're going to do it in day one and you didn't do it on day one, and then when you do it, it turns out to be fucking nothing. And that's going to leave you with egg on your face. And then and especially when Bondi said that she had it on her desk for like 8 fucking days. So you had it for 8 days and you never fucking read it. You never looked at it for 8 days, because if you looked at it, you would know that it wasn't fucking everything. And after saying that it's everything, you then say, "Oh no, we're gonna release it in drips and drabs. You're gonna get like another installment. There's gonna be a part 2." I'm sorry, at this point, anyone who's excited for part 2 is a fucking idiot, because if there's any meat in there, they should have given it the first time around.
Yeah, I have a feeling. Well, what Elon said on Rogan was that the guy, what's his name, Cash Patel.
Look at the comments. 13. Yes, we are doing it again because this is what we're talking about. What else do you want us to talk about? Tell us.
Oh my gosh, stop.
No,
So
but
anyway,
like, what the fuck? This is a topic the cat wants to talk about. What the fuck do you want us to do?
talk about blue balls. Anyways, so moving on.
Wow.
Stop. No. Okay. What was I saying? Now I can't remember.
Cash Patel.
Yes. So that guy. So Elon was saying that he got in, but all the people who work there are like enemy of Trump.
It doesn't.
So he's
it doesn't
like
matter.
asking them. I know, but he's asking them to give me the stuff, knowing that they can do whatever they want to it before they give it away to him.
Well,
And then he's like, give it to me by this time, and like they're like, well, this is all we can give you by that time.
Yeah. So
it's like
two things that are wrong with what Elon said there. Two things that were wrong, and Joe Rogan called him on one of those things. First of all, it doesn't fucking matter, because number one, he's got the authority. Okay, he could have done what Elon did and basically said, "I want you guys to email me this shit." I mean, obviously not email because of confidentiality, but I want you guys to present this shit to me by this time. If you don't do it, I'll take that as a notice of your resignation. You guys are all gone. If it's not on my desk, you guys are fucking jobless. That's it. That's the authority that Cash Patel had. Now, the other thing that Rogan called Elon on, which was quite right, is they should never have said it's going to be released on day one. If you know that you're not going to do it on day one because you're working against the enemy and it's going to take you time to get shit organized, which I can accept, then don't say it's going to be a day one thing. And the other thing was Bondi's fuck up. Don't say it's amazing. I've never. It's shocking. All of you guys, you're not going to be able to believe it. I can't believe the shit that I read. And then you release something where 99% of the shit is redacted, and the 1% of the shit that is there is stuff that came out in 2015.
Yeah.
So, like, I think they've got egg on their face. I'm sorry. It's like, no matter how much you like Kash Patel, and I was excited for Kash Patel too. I do still like the guy, but like, this was a fuck up that the Republicans made here. This was a big, big, big fuck up, particularly just because of the issue of what it was and what we were expecting.
I'm under the impression that they're just going to give stupid flight logs and people are going to say, I wasn't there for that. I was there for this, or I was just passing through, or I never went off the thing. No. And then it's going to be like, you can't, whatever. They're not going to show us like, you know, who's on the videos, who's on the client list. Because apparently they're supposed to have videos of people doing stuff.
Do you know how you know? Do you know how you know that it is going to basically be nothing essentially at the end of the day? The easiest indicator to know that this is all going to be fucking nothing at the end of the day. And I hope that it is nothing, because if it isn't nothing, if it actually is something relevant that gets released, then I think the Republican Party is going to have a whole new set of problems. Because the reason why I think it's nothing is if it was something, and if they did actually have some genuine dirt, some actual, this is horrific, and these are the names of the people that were involved, and here's the videos of the people involved, what's the first thing that you're going to be expecting?
Trial.
You're going to be expecting those people to be jailed, locked up for life, right?
But
and then once you realize that that's how you feel, what's the question that you're going to be asking yourself? Why the fuck did these people know about this for years
and
nothing was done, and these people were walking free? So if they release this shit slowly,
I think it's blackmail. Like, first,
so if we find
whoever
out,
had it, now we have it. Now the new, like, whatever, changing of the guards, the new people have it.
But this stuff went back, and the FBI had details on it even when Trump was in power the first time round. So they're going to be like, why didn't the Republicans know about this? Why didn't they do something about it sooner? Were you guys profiteering off of blackmail or some other shit? Were you guys also involved? And that raises a whole new set of questions, which makes the Trump administration look just as bad as the fucking Biden and you know, and prior to him, Obama administration as well. It's not a good look. If it turns out that there are names there and there is proof there implicating all these people beyond a shadow of a doubt, videos and everything else, it's not going to be a good look. We're going to be like, well, you should have released this immediately, and people should have been arrested immediately. Like, people should have been taken to court immediately. Like, it's going to be way worse. People are going to think this isn't just like, this isn't a win for you that you think it is. This is actually implicating you guys.
Unless they want to wipe out a lot of people in the government.
Well,
all at once.
Even in that case, it's going to be basically like throwing a grenade at somebody 2 feet away from you.
Yeah.
And I just think that, like, if you think about how this kind of goes along with everything else that they're doing along that same plan, look at what else they're trying to say they're going to reveal. The JFK shit. Like, do we really even give a fuck at this point? Does anybody still fucking care? Is anybody still even alive from back then, apart from fucking Biden? Like, nobody gives a shit about that stuff anymore. We all know, like, we waited for like one little bit of information, and the person working on it says, oh, I do think there was a second gunman. Like, well done. You've reached the same conclusion that we did 30 fucking years ago.
Yep. Okay, so let's...
If they want to do something interesting, they need to reveal all the shit about 9/11. Really reveal 9/11 and tell us what the fuck is in Area 51 and
See, that's what I want to know
S2.
first. I already
Yeah.
know 9/11. I already believe all the conspiracy theories are true. I don't need any more.
Yeah.
I'm settled. My mind is settled there. But I want to know what's in Area 51. That I do not know.
Area 51 and that other one, what's it? S2 or wherever, the one that Bob Lazar worked on.
Yeah, we need to know about that. That's what we need to know. That's the most important one.
Especially because of Elon. Like, fucking hell, man. Elon
He
wants
is
to
an
go
alien. He
home.
doesn't want us to know about his people.
Yeah, he wants to go home. So tell us where his home is.
Or he wants to get off planet before an asteroid comes and hits it. If you see him getting into a rocket, we're toast.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so
Oh, by
let's
the way,
do
did you
what?
notice that really strange look? If you've seen Elon's videos in the past, if you've seen him in interviews in the past, you know
What?
that when he talks about something where he's like, "Oh, I'm telling you something very obvious, but I'm not allowed to speak about it." Have you noticed how he'll raise his right eyebrow in a really weird way? It's like a really strange arched eyebrow that he does. And he gives you this look with his mouth, which is almost like, ooh, like I'm saying something really bad right now. He gives a funny look and he'll say something, and it's almost like there's something here that I'm not allowed to tell you, but I'm telling you. And he did it in the Joe Rogan episode quite early on. I think it was within the first half an hour.
Mm.
And it was when he was talking with Rogan about something, and they were talking about how the world will end. And they were like, "Oh, we've got to basically populate another planet to ensure our survival for the future." And then Rogan goes, "Oh yeah, because there could be another asteroid that hits." And Elon says, "Or we can annihilate ourselves with nuclear war, or it could be poverty, or it could be this." And then all of a sudden, he pulled that crazy eyebrow move, and his mouth went kind of funny, and he said, or we're going to all be wiped out by a genetically engineered supervirus.
That little alien creep.
But that's because at first you're supposed to think, oh yeah, he's probably talking about like, the thing that happened a few years ago. But it's
Yeah.
like, no, he's saying it in a way like there's going to be another one coming. And it's already happening.
I had heard several places.
They've been like 40 since the last one that they've tried to get going but hasn't.
Well, yeah, there's the one with the brain worms, basically, the brain parasite.
There's so much. But thankfully now the smart people.
Did you guys hear about the what was it? I think it was like an offshoot, like a modified Epstein bar.
Oh,
like the one
Jeffrey
that
Epstein?
no, but it's like this. It's like a modified virus that basically kind of chews your nerves apart, basically in your brain, in the brainstem.
Not Guillain-Barré.
I can't remember. No.
Cytomegalovirus.
They basically said like how when they were talking about the last one, they're like, oh, there's kind of markers in it that look like it's been engineered.
Epstein-Barr does seem, the way it reacts and stays in the body is a little odd. Same thing with cytomegalovirus, human herpes 6 and 7. All these are chronic viral infections, although some people produce antibodies without having any PCR titers, which means their immune system becomes stimulated, and then they produce these antibodies. So they're not even sure. They're trying to like say, well, maybe you don't have it, maybe you do have it. We need to see the DNA. So it's difficult to get PCR for some of these unless you're really full blown, which is the case, yes. But with Lyme tick-borne disease, each tick can transmit up to 36 different pathogens. They don't know all of them. They're still discovering new ones, or putting out new ones and then discovering them.
I think so. Anyways, let's do the financial crisis and then our final thoughts, because I am tired and
Oh,
old. Okay. America's financial crisis. $1 trillion in interest on the national debt. Social Security is a Ponzi scheme. We already went through that. California illegal immigration. It legalized healthcare for immigrants.
including Elon.
Yeah, that's fucking insane.
So anyone from anywhere can go there and get healthcare. But like the people who work and live there have to pay. It's ridiculous.
They can also get sex changes too.
Okay, I don't want to know about that. Let's not talk about that. Anyways,
Why is it that you don't want to talk about the interesting shit?
I don't think that's allowed. So let's move on.
They don't have blue
What's
balls
not
anymore.
allowed?
Oh my gosh.
Their balls are
Anyways.
gone.
Kat, you're what's wrong with America today. People self-censoring themselves. Talk about it. We want to know about illegals cutting off their dicks.
Okay, stop. So what is the
And I
Congo illness? What's the Congo thing? What's happening over there? Does anybody know? No? I thought you guys are in the medical field.
Yeah, but we
there's all
don't care
kinds of-
about black people.
Oh my God, enough.
What? Can't I make a joke? Jesus
No, you
Christ. You
can't.
know that you're the racist here, not me.
Stop.
Are,
Oh
are
my
they talking
God.
about something like a Ebola or a version of it that they keep on coming out with?
They keep trying to like mess with Ebola. They're like,
Super Ebola.
This hasn't killed them yet. Come on. We gotta make it
no,
better.
That's the problem. If it's too super, if it kills you too quickly, it can't spread.
Yeah, they do too well of a job that that's the problem. Don't tell them that though. Just tell them, just make it stronger next time, boys. You're almost there.
You want it to definitely kill them, but slowly so that it can spread as well.
No,
They
kill
already
them.
do that with insulin resistance diabetes.
That's just giving us food that's crap. Be aware and prepare. Yes.
But they'll make
Yes.
more money if it turns to cancer.
Nobody banged any monkeys. That's just like some propaganda.
Well, they do eat monkey
No,
brain.
the best explanation was the one that Ricky Gervais did in his stand-up. Did you watch that one?
Which one?
Where Ricky was basically saying that like he did this kind of bit about how Ebola came around, and he was like, "Oh, this guy just basically goes to the doctor, and the doctor's like, holy shit." And it was either Ebola or HIV or AIDS or something like that. It was probably HIV or AIDS.
Why do you say it like that? It's so weird.
Well, what language are you speaking again? Remind me. Yeah, thank you. Shut the fuck up.
American English.
We speak American over here. I don't know what kind of jibber jabber you're talking about over there. All right. Somebody said it was AIDS. Yeah. So with the AIDS thing, he was saying like the guy goes to the doctor, is like, I'm not feeling well. The doctor goes, oh yeah, you're really fucked up. Like, well, there's two ways that you could have gotten this. Either you ate monkey meat, and the guy's like, no, I don't eat monkey. I'm not crazy. I'm not going to eat monkey meat. He goes, or you fucked one. He goes, yeah, I was eating it. It's like, it's ridiculous. Like, how the fuck do they know that this is how it happened? Like, you either ate monkey meat or you fucked the monkey.
It'd be the fucking the monkey.
Lord have mercy.
Or spanking it, and then who knows? Or they did both.
Oh my gosh.
Or maybe you were just sleeping and the monkey just came and molested you.
That's also possible. They were very strong, and maybe they like ripped the dick off.
Okay.
Who knows?
Yeah, they're pretty strong.
They are very strong. They can rip your arm off.
Steve, do you think that if you were like just lying in bed and a monkey just climbed through the window and just decided that it wanted to just have its way with you, would you be able to fight it off?
Well, its dick is pretty tiny, but fight it off, I would be mutilated. I would definitely be mutilated. Would I be able to
graped at the same time?
Yeah, but they're tiny, little. They don't have big penises.
How many have you seen?
Last time at the zoo, it wasn't. They were all like fingers, like not a thumb, not a index, a pinky. They're not.
But maybe if you worked it, Steve, you could make it grow.
Well, you mean, well, you could try doing, well, they did that with testicles, actually. They were taking human testicles and putting them in animals. I'm wondering what would happen. That was
Oh,
U.S. government.
fucking hell.
Yeah, that was funded by
This
the
is
US
what your
government.
taxpayer money goes to.
Yeah. Well, but you can take a human ovary and put it somewhere on your body. It'll still produce hormones.
Oh, yeah, yeah. It will just get vascularized and...
So they thought, let's do this with human testicles, but stick it
Why
in
not?
animals.
Okay. Anyways, you guys
Let's
are
make some
insane.
weird freak monkey human hybrid.
Yeah, well, they've been doing that. So
You've got a humanzee.
humanzi.
Oh my gosh.
No, humanzi. Speaking of German
Yeah.
accent. Yeah.
It would be like a woman, but just a super hairy one. Well done. You created an Afghani woman. No.
Oh, it looks Chinese. No, it's not.
Okay. So, final thoughts. Oh, I do have some memes.
Thoughts and prayers.
No, I have some memes first. This is one I found on the internet. Yes. Oh my God.
This is what they're going to do. I'm convinced that the reason they're doing these operations on animals is so that then they could say, oh, hey, look, we've got a new type of sex change you can do for every one of these imaginary genders. Because you can be a dude who's got a dick and who's got balls. And they'll be like, we're going to graft some woman's ovary onto you. And now you can just literally fuck yourself and get yourself pregnant.
Except the womb part.
Well, they'll stick a womb in you as well.
They'd have to. Well, I mean, there's no reason why that couldn't happen. I mean, you just make a hole, make sure it stays open.
What?
What are they using for the inside? Is it intestine?
Anyways, interesting.
Self-lubricate. I don't know.
All right.
That would rip apart. They'd have to do a C-section to get it out.
Yeah.
All right. So, what do we think of the financial future of the U.S.? Do you think?
I tell you what, Kat, I think it's not as interesting as this conversation that we're having right now.
I don't feel that way.
Let's talk more about some weird trans non-binary person exploding themselves trying to make a baby.
Oh my God.
Wow. Speaking of blue balls.
It's insane. I think. Okay, so does anybody think that the U.S. is going to survive this? Do you think we'll audit everyone? We'll clean house with
I think what's happening right now is saving you. What's happening right now is saving you. It's not gonna fully secure your financial future, but at least you're not hemorrhaging shit as much as you possibly could be if
only $1 billion
you didn't have Doge.
We're hemorrhaging in cash that we don't know is going where because it's not marked.
Well, we're gonna figure it.
You skipped that part.
No, we already talked about that before you got.
Oh.
Yeah, you were late, like an hour.
Somebody wanted to make brownies.
Okay. Anyways,
about to kick in, so I better finish quick. I'm joking.
Wow. Anyways, I don't know. I hope is there anything we can do about California and New York being so commie, or we're just gonna leave that to states' rights and that's on them?
I think you should give California and New York more of what they want. Just overrun them with human garbage from the shittiest parts of the world.
Wall it off.
Okay, then say,
except Wall Street.
No, they're moving Wall Street to Miami. You know about that,
Not
right?
Completely.
Enough.
They have so much data. I don't know what they're doing now, but it used to be that they needed to be right next to it.
No, it's fine.
Can you imagine a sea of purple hair? And they're the traders. I mean, people that trade stocks and bonds, not
what
traders.
What are you talking about?
Traders, yes.
No, that's not how it works. They
don't. Purple-haired people.
They don't know how to trade. Stop.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, but then the good thing, Steve, is that when they've run into the financial ruin that happened in the past, you could see a sea of purple-haired people falling out of windows. And
no, because the people who fell out of the windows were the ones who made bad investments. Purple hair people don't make investments.
They get bailed out.
Yeah.
They know there's a bailout.
But the purple hair people are not in the game.
What I was thinking about California is that I would just allow God to work things out. Big, huge earthquake, push off into the sea.
What about New York? Typhoon?
No, that New York is elevation. You can't take them out. It's on granite. There's no earthquakes.
Huh.
There's a few sand. Was it Hurricane Sandy? Hurricane Susan?
I don't know. What do I
One of
know?
those
I don't
hurricanes
care about when
Did put it
hurricanes
under,
go
but
other
they
places.
That didn't stop the New Yorkers. They didn't care.
Oh, well. You know what? It is what it is. I say we just leave them alone. Maybe like make a wall, a nice, beautiful wall around New York and California, and just like, good luck, you guys.
It's longer term than that. They will. They can't procreate, so
They're
they will
bringing
end up
in
dying out.
No. They're bringing in all the illegals. So
yeah, but the illegals will end up converting to where they were. Their children will become us today. It will work its way out. Always does.
So they're just gonna continue to bring more illegals.
It's going to be hell
forever.
But then
I
those
think you
illegals,
should
when they're
let
here, they
them-
don't want to bring
Look,
other illegals.
This is a good point. They're coastal states, so we could technically bomb around
Bomb? No.
bomb around the coast and then just make a big hole and then push them into the sea.
Just let them bring in all the illegals they want, but also
Blow up
help
any
them
bridge
out.
that they have
No,
to
just
in it.
help them out by shipping loads of super fentanyl into those countries, into those states
Oh my
as well.
god, I love this idea.
Fentanyl fog.
No. Open air asylums.
You mean just wall it off?
Yeah, wall it off. It's an open air
so
asylum.
what
Yeah, well,
you
you're
guys.
describing is The Handmaid's Tale.
No, it's not.
No.
because-
What you're
No.
what
The
you're
Handmaid's Tale had some
describing-
involvement. We don't want any involvement.
Steve, what you're describing is the classic Kurt Russell Escape from New York style scenario. So you have Escape from New York, but you also have Escape from California, right? Where New York was basically just one big penal colony.
Yes. I like this. No escape from New York and LA.
Yes, it's a
Yeah,
penal
there you go.
colony. Except sometimes they chop the penal colony off. It becomes a vaginal colony.
Okay. Interesting. All right.
And you got castrated. Never mind. I'll work on it.
Insane. All right. So
Fidel castrate.
Fidel castrate.
Lord have mercy. All right. Any final thoughts, Damon? Beautiful.
If stupid people want to take themselves out of society, don't save them. For ages, I was one of those people who was like, I'm against abortion, I'm pro-life, life begins at conception, don't allow for abortions. And then I realized maybe I'm thinking about this wrong. If one particular group of people wants to take themselves out of the breeding pool, let them take themselves out of the breeding pool.
Yeah, I mean, natural
These
selection.
people are genetic dead ends. Just take them out of society.
And some are doing it themselves by living in their parents', no offense to anyone, parents' basement.
Yeah.
Where's Teriyaki?
Stop. Or
Oh,
oh my God.
no.
Sorry, that
Teriyak's
was a
our
grab.
little Irish legend.
Yeah. Who's taking care of his parents? I'm sure.
So what else? Let's see. Oh. Okay, so the US might survive, but probably not. All right, that's nice. What else?
It's very informative, Kat. We might make it. We might not make it.
I'm leaning towards maybe a little bit.
Cover all your bases there.
I think. Okay, look.
Will
If I
we
had to
succeed?
guess-
Yes or no?
Look, I think we might not get into wars, so that's good. I think maybe he might break up big tech, not Elon, of course, because that's his buddy, but he might go after Amazon and Facebooks and all those people. And since he did find that a lot of them were getting funneled money, he might like have to put something into place to keep them from being so biased.
Do you know what I think would be cool though? Think about if Elon Musk keeps his kind of same mentality that he's in right now. And if we do get to the stage where he colonizes Mars and people are being flown out there, right? He will technically have the stake on Mars. He can technically just declare himself like God Emperor of Mars, right?
Yeah.
Who are you going to bring there? His SpaceX will probably still be the one place that will be the one way of bringing people to Mars. Think how cool Mars would be to live on, because he will most likely just be like, no, fuck you, I'm not letting liberals on Mars.
Except for his Jewish baby mamas.
I don't
They're
think he'll
not
bring his
liberal.
baby
They're
mamas
like
there.
they're fake conservatives, except for Grimes.
Grimes is.
Anyways, let's move on. I think we need to end now. All right, guys. Thank you all for coming. Next week we'll think of something else. Maybe not controversial at all. Lord have mercy.
We didn't even talk about the Jews, Cat.
Nope. Okay.
Said it again.
Stop. You're not allowed to say that. They who will not be named. They who shall not be
Okay,
named.
the Semites.
No, you're not allowed to say that. They think that you think they don't know what that is.
She's so
Anyways.
anti-Semitic.
All right. There is no Trump. Is there a Trump coin? I don't think so.
I love how informed you are, Kat.
I don't know.
I think.
Oh my gosh, these are bagels, you guys. I didn't know what that was.
Bagels?
Oh,
Fucking-
What do you think? It was?
I didn't know. I
bagel
didn't know what it was.
bakers.
I thought they were little happy faces. I've been sharing
She
them this
thought-
whole fucking stream.
She thought they were donuts.
Oh, God, guys. Anyways, thank you guys for hanging out. And remember, shout out to Simperius, who could not be here with us because his arm fell off.
It's gotta stop going up to the elbow.
His arm fell off. Did he keep the finger?
I think so. I think the whole thing is just falling off. It's just rotting off piece by piece. Anyways,
Speaking of blue balls.
okay, we gotta go.
That dude has got it.
Stop. Be nice. Anyways, good night, guys. Thanks for hanging out. Bye.
Shalom, everyone.